Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C-Certified Brewhead, and welcome to episode 204 of Beer and Other Shit, the podcast Adjunct series. Ladies and gentlemen, this evening we're heading up to the Blue Mountains, which is a couple hours north of Toronto here in Ontario. It's a place that I'd been to like forever ago. Like, I don't know. We went for New Year's a few years back. When I first moved to Canada, I got to check it out. But in these last couple of months, I've been back twice, and it's been sick to explore the towns and the regions and the breweries and just sort of get a bit more of an understanding. So the brewery that we're talking to tonight was actually also a brewery that I visited back in 2011 with for the OGs here, the original co-host Scott. We went on a little beer trip and got to check it out, and then it's been cool to sort of watch from afar to see the brewery change over the years, and then now actually seeing it getting the full tour, eating the insanely incredible food there the other month, back in April. No, it was May. So fire. So this is gonna be great. I'm looking forward to getting this full story because I actually don't know the how it all went down, all the different changes over the years, and we've got a killer lineup of beers. So, folks, please welcome. Let me get this right, get this nice and smooth because I can never do it. God damn it. Alrighty, we're gonna go. Please welcome. See, I fuck this up every time, yo. Guys, please welcome Derek and James of Blue Mountain Brewery in the building.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. There we go. You know the vibes. Gentlemen, welcome. Great to have you.
The crowd is huge here today. It's fantastic. But I think they're here to see you, Craig.
Oh, no. They're over me. It's all for you guys. Come on now. Come on. Guys, thank you for hanging out. Thank you for taking the time. This is going to be fun. I appreciate you both. So, shall we get into that first beer?
Let's do it.
All right.
The low lager.
Is that what you have already?
Yeah, I'm halfway through it.
Hey, sometimes you gotta.
We've got a bit of supply behind us here, Craig. So we may.
Hey, look, you know what? That was definitely the smart move right here. So, would it be fair to call this the flagship?
Sure could. Yeah, I think that's very fair to say, and it's actually what found the kind of getting to the name of Blue Mountain Brewing Company is that for the longest time that was the Blue Mountain Light Lager.
Okay. When did this one first? When was this one first released? Because I don't know if it was around back in the day. Like,
it was probably the fourth beer we made. It's also got through a lot of name changes over the years.
But there was a time when it was just Blue Mountain Lager.
Yes, it was Blue Mountain Lager. Yeah, it was a regular Ellis. It was 5%. We decided to make some changes and drop it down to 4, make it a little bit more sessionable. Just took off from there. Various name changes, and we landed up, why not call it Blue Mountain Light Lager? We're in the area, it's recognizable, and yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So this was this around when it was King or not? Not quite.
No, this was post King.
Post King. Okay.
Post King, yeah.
And did it become the flagship because that's sort of like, and I'm asking this because I'm just curious about kind of like the palates in the area. Did it become the flagship because that's kind of just what people wanted the most, or was this kind of a bit more? Yeah.
It for a long time, our biggest sellers was obviously the Pilsner. When we came out with the Vienna, which is called Latin now, that was kind of when we came out with the Blue Mountain Light Lager, it took off. Our biggest seller now.
Yeah, definitely the flagship, and has grown over the years, and really just comes down to a really easy drinking light lager, right? And nothing too crazy about it, just great quality ingredients. I mean, superb craftsmanship on the other side of the table with James and his team, but this is just a great beer.
Yeah, it's
super second. It's a lawnmower beer. It's a patio beer. It's a golfing beer.
We may have had one or two golfs.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, so it's you can have a lot of them.
Oh, you do.
It's crisp. It's refreshing. I mean, as a beer, it's great. I mean, And I think one of the things that we did think about consciously was that we're in an area of activity, a lot of activity, and we kind of get almost all the seasons around here, right? So, we've got the winter season here, Blue Mountain, and various ski slopes. There's a number of them around here through the Beaver Valley and out through Collingwood area and such, and we get that busyness and skiers and cross-country skiing as well. I know I like to snowshoe, so we get a lot of winter activities up here, so people are busy doing that. Same then we turn to the summer. We've got incredible hiking trails, Bruce Trail coming through all this area. Great Georgia Trail here for biking. We got a couple of bike treks. Yeah, we got a lot of
motorcycles as well.
And so just, and great golf courses. And, we just have that, there's a busy, active lifestyle up here. And I think this beer kind of answers that need, if you will.
That makes a lot of sense. And that's exactly what I saw both times. I feel like is like every other corner, they've got like ski rental shops and things like that. So it's definitely super common. We got to try this from the tank when we visited in May. And it was fantastic. It's such like it's exactly as you guys described. It's the perfect beer that's sort of got tons of flavor, but it's 4%, right? Yeah, 4. So it's like you said, you have a ton of them. It's got a nice little grassy bitterness going on in there. It's just money. It's exactly what what it says on the label. So it's I can see why this one has become so popular, and it completely aligns with that the active folks.
And I think too that people are surprised sometimes when they find out this is a light beer, right? Because you caught it there, and it's got a lot of flavor, right? It's got that flavor, that fullness. It's
just it's all barley and hops. There's no rice, there's no corn. It's just 100% barley based light lager, and it goes back to our sort of, I guess, European style roots that King was founded on, and just kind of continued it into this beer.
I love it. This is money, boys. I think it's fantastic. Was it still called light lager when it was under Thornbury?
It was back then. The can would say on the top it had the Thornbury Craft Co.
Yep.
And then underneath it just was called Blue Mountain Light Lager.
Blue Mountain Light. Oh, yes. Sorry, you did say that. I wanted to just clarify in case there's. Oh, you might have the old one. Oh, nice.
Oh, we've got the full lineup of all the Blue Mountain Brewing Co. Beers. Kind of what was happening, Craig. Really honest is that we had the Thornbury name, and we do make some other products under that we're going for, and we wanted to leverage that name, but it was confusing for people. I think because they think of Thornbury, they think of cider, and that does happen. Yep. And we wanted to differentiate it out, and a lot of people don't know where Thornbury is. They think it's just a name, right? But everyone knows the Blue Mountains, and so it just made a lot of sense to transition the beer into the Blue Mountain Brewing Company. And we've been working on that for the better part of a year now. And we just had our full launch about 2 weeks ago, where we just fully launched here on at the brewery, and just did a lot of fun and the weekend with free tours and giveaways and music all weekend. And as you noted earlier, fabulous food coming out of this kitchen right now.
Oh, is it ever? We'll definitely dive into that. So you know what? I was going to go into the stories, but since you talked about the name change, maybe that's actually a really good place to start. So for people who don't know, and we are going to get into it, so the brewery was originally King Brewery back from to late 2000s.
2002, yeah.
2002. Oh my God. Okay.
2002, yeah.
Damn.
Some of the OGs.
Yeah.
It was before the craft beer boom happened in Canada, at least.
Well before.
Cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the King Pilsner was one of the first beers that I like, local beers that you could get at the LCBO. That was around when I moved to Canada in 2010. So it was always like around, and then the dark lager, and there was a whole bunch of really great, consistent beers when there was very few breweries at the time that were doing some solid stuff. So I always had a real soft spot for it. Okay, that's amazing. And then it transitioned to Thornbury. It was a craft beer and cider.
A little bit of history in between there.
Yeah, I mean, back in 2015, we started looking to get into the cider business because we would ultimately have the beer company is a wine company. They kind of work well together. So we were out looking for a cider, and don't you know, some phone calls were made, and we found someone that was interested in talking to us. He says, well, not only are we a cider, we are a brewery as well. I was like, wow, this is a no-brainer then. We got to get this thing, right? So we started chatting, and what had happened at that point already is they had already transitioned it in that prior year away from King over to Thornbury. And so that transition had already happened when we had taken over the company in February of 2016. And, you know, we still had the location in King City where King Beer was founded and such. And then we had this location. Their intent was always to bring it up here and have it all out of one location, which, you know, we saw the vision for that as well. As we were working towards that vision, there was a small interruption in the world. So this COVID thing. That's
fun for everybody.
You know, well, we'll come around to that. But certainly we didn't get up here as quickly as we wanted to because of that. But we are here now. But that was always the intent. So it already transitioned over to Thornbury at that time. And we went with it, you know, and we did a redesign on the cans back then across the portfolio and worked through that. And that's how it was Thornbury beer. And then from there, we continued to expand the offerings into new areas and such. And then about 2 or 3 years ago, it came around again. We said, well, it's the 20th anniversary of King Pilsner. So we did a 20th anniversary King Pilsner. But then when we were looking at the shelves, Craig, we could see the King Pilsner. We could see some different labels that were happening. We had the Blue Mountain Light Lager going, but it was Thornbury, a couple other Thornbury names. We had a different couple of graphics and things. And you know, it's you're always trying to find that. Yeah, you're always trying to find that lightning in the bottle, and nothing really was really there. We knew we had great beers. There was no question in our mind about that. The amount of awards that James and his team has won, going all the way back to 2007, 2008, all the way back to then, is pretty impressive, especially on the world stage. So we know we have great beers. We know we got to get someone to grab that beer off the shelf. As soon as they try it once, they're going to buy it again. We're confident in that. And we just weren't winning in any one area. And it just finally came to be that Blue Mountain just made sense. We're here in the Blue Mountains. Everyone knows where the Blue Mountains are. And it was time to become the Blue Mountain Brewing Co. And you know, I love this and how everything has come together on the portfolio, and it's pretty consistent throughout it. I think our team did a fantastic job between Shannon and Rich and developing this, and you know, we couldn't be happier with the branding right now and being in this community with this brand.
I love it. I definitely agree. You guys did a fantastic job, and everything looks super. When you actually look at the cans side by side, and I'm like, damn, this looks super clean. And I can see the need to separate it. When I came by yesterday, James and I were briefly chatting, and you know, there are some people who didn't know that you guys, that Thornbury, made beer, and I guess that was sort of part of the thing you would, yeah.
It's a massive building off the back of the original building. Still, they don't know.
Which is what
I mean, Thornbury cider has become so big, it's kind of hard to also have beer in that portfolio, and then it just kind of got lost. Right? So,
I agree. I mean, we may or may not have found our beer in the cider section before because it said Thornbury on the side. May or may not happen. I'm not going to say where, you know, and so this, again, coming back to it, just really differentiates it from the cider brand for us. We're super, super proud of the beers that we have, and I think this really showcases it well. And we've got a few new. I think we're going to try some later, but we got a few new in the portfolio that are kind of more new in the last year or two. And we're pretty set on our core 10. And then we have our seasonals, which, you know, here this right now we have a blueberry pomegranate sour is one of the seasonals. And we make those look a little bit different than the rest. We've got the Baltic Porter seasonal, and
Was it the other sour?
Witbier, 2 sours.
Oh, the Witbier, sorry, the Witbier right here, my apologies, yeah. So I take these kind of 3 out, we do those a little bit different, and then if we go back to our core 10, maybe this is the way it should have been organized.
Yeah, maybe.
Here we go. We talked about this earlier, going, how do we line these beers up? And there was going to be 12 different answers, and they were all correct. I would say this is an interesting way to look at it. Here's our core 10, and then we have our seasonals. And we've got a team that works through this every 2 weeks on seasonals and developing the program and such. And then we go into a seasonal, and we'll see how it does. If it knocks it out of the park, it might go into the core. If it doesn't, it may not come back. If this is trial and error at times, right? We've got a great opportunity within the tap room here, and with our customers to try these things out. And in the end, we might love it, but it's whether the customers love it or not, right?
Gotcha. How many? That makes complete sense. How many seasonals would you do per? Like, I guess it's every quarter. Is that sort of how?
I would say at least every quarter. Every now and then we sneak another one in there.
Okay.
So yeah, we're working on a Cartlidge golden sour right now. That's not really part of the seasonal program. It's just a project we wanted to have some fun with. Got some Chardonnay barrels from the winery. Just
That's fun.
That's fun. Just threw some bacteria in there, and we'll see what we get. Right. It's our first sort of foray into barrel aging a true sour. We have sours, they're all kettle sours, so it's our first legit sour. It's been in the barrels for over a year now.
Nice.
But I would say generally we're minimum of 2 every quarter.
2 every quarter, and more times they're ones that have been released in the past, but often you'll throw something fun in there and see.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can be at 3, that sort of thing, for sure.
So the Baltic Porter we did a few years ago. We decided to bring it back. It's really popular.
Nice.
The Oatmeal Stout was a seasonal that hit it off, so now we brought that into the sort of main rotation. Got a story about the Oatmeal Stout later, but yeah, so it's fun. You get to kind of break away from the regular everyday sort of production role, and you get to play around and come up with something new, and then it's all the brewers going.
Then especially for the people that are coming back all the time, gives something, know that there's generally going to be something different offered up, whether it's through our beers or through our ciders or our food or our merch. There's always something different. The music's always different. We've got something going on. So if you were here, 3 weeks ago and someone says, let's go there, it's like, when you come here, there's going to be something that's going to get you excited.
Definitely. Okay, that's awesome. So then with 10 core beers, that's actually a pretty chunky lineup. I love that. How do you get those out there as far as like licensees, LCBO, Beerster, all of that stuff? Like, are they all on distro, or is like how is that sort of structured?
Not yet is the key there, Craig. Not yet.
Yet is the key word.
So yeah, right now our distribution, we're in the LCBO with 2 beers right now with our Mountain Light Lager. Pilsner is just being released right now.
Okay.
So the Ridgeline Pilsner, those 2 will be in the LCBO. And Light Lager has been in the LCBO now for a number of years. And then as well, we do offer a 6-pack that we sell at the beer store. Well, we do 6, 12s, and 24s, but we offer up a 6-pack at the beer store. So we're available there with the Light Lager. And then these 10 are available for all licensees.
Okay.
So we've had, it's funny, some licensees, like you get in there and depending on their lineup, we need a sour. And so recently we got a couple of really great places, one in Ottawa and one in Toronto, that are really into beer, let's just say. And they took our sour, and it was great. And it was our first opportunity to get into those 2 bars. And they've already doubled the amount that
there's an unexpected bump, and like, oh, we better get making.
Yeah. So and it took off, and the passion fruit orange guava sour has really taken off for us. So it is in continued production now. So that's been really great. The blonde has done really well for some customers. So it's in a more regular rotation other than just for the tap room here. So we're young, but we're growing, and
That's
we're passionate and excited about it all at the same time.
That's awesome. So it sounds like, because I always find that the beer is usually like beer nerd stuff and kind of more gateway stuff. I find that the gateway stuff doesn't get the props that it deserves, because the gateway beers that are approachable, that are not pretentious, that are just sort of like showing people that, hey, there is more out there than Molson Canadian or something like that. And here's a great example.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Well,
perfect, So I feel like, are you guys sort of? I always saw you guys as a gateway. Once again, I feel like the beer nerds don't always respect it, but I think it's more important than anything else in beer, because the gateway breweries are bringing in new consumers. That's really how it's going, I think. And it sounds like from this, are you guys maybe getting into more like beer bar type of spaces that perhaps you weren't involved in the past, and maybe this new branding sort of allowing the interest there?
Well, mine. It's just we weren't there yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And now, so with the tap room, which we didn't have before we moved up, it allows us to try new things. It's hard to brew, 38 hex of something for the first time and then tell the girls guys go sell it without any samples. And it's just like, right. So it's kind of like a testing ground for us. Like, okay, it's going well. Let's expand it a little bit, see what we can do outside of the tap room.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's a really good point that you make there, Craig. I hear it all the time. Craft beer. Oh, I don't want a craft beer. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. And when I say to those people, it's like, no, what we're talking about is good quality beer. 4 simple ingredients. And that's it. And the key that we have here is Blue Mountains has won the best water in North America. Okay.
Really?
And they have won this award, and they've also won another water award with some of the best water. The last one was a Canadian one. Okay. And I mean, we were 3 years running the best water. Now that might have been during COVID or something, but we did win, so we're making beer using the best water in North America. No one else, not many else can say that. There's been a few other award winners, of course, throughout the States, but we were the first Canadian city to win that. Canadian town to win that award in North America.
Amazing.
And so we've got that great thing going for us. We got great water, huge, right? And then top-notch ingredients. And so when I talk to my friends that are, and as we say sometimes, we evaluate whether you're a TED or a Trent. And at my age, Craig, I'd be considered a TED. Okay, James at his age would be considered a Trent. And for Ted and his friends, who were drinking, light beers and different things like that, and mass-produced beers, it's a bit for them to get into a craft beer and say, oh, no, because they tried a super hoppy IPA, and they were never going to drink that, right? And as I've introduced people into light lager, or maybe a blonde ale or something like that, ladder run, a little easier, even the dark lager for that matter. It's like 12 IBUs or something. Like, they're like, oh wow, this is a craft beer? Yes, this is a craft beer. It's about good ingredients, right? It's about quality. And that's what, sometimes I think we lose sight of in the craft beer business. And sometimes you see these things where it's just so hopped out and crazy. I like to use the line, just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? And there's a place for everything, but yeah, getting that person over that hump is pretty. It takes a bit to get their trust on it, that it's going to be a consistently just good tasting beer. And I think that we have those gateway beers, as you say, and with this expanded portfolio, and we were touching on all these other beers as seasonals, and this is what came of it. And so now between the stout, the IPAs, the hazy IPA, the sours, we're playing in areas that we hadn't played in before, but we can be all things to different people.
That's a good way to look at it too. I like that, like all things to different folks, because you've got that breadth now. No matter where people are at in their kind of craft beer like journey as such, like where strangely some styles bring, like sours is a great example. You've both been talking about the 2 sours that are really catching some steam right now. It's almost not surprising, because they speak to a lot of cider and wine drinkers as well, and they tend to be a really great like little gateway as opposed to the fizzy yellow water beer drinkers who are drinking the macro stuff and then coming in that way. So there's like, and maybe there's like a Guinness drinker who would just never touch anything else, but they'll try the oatmeal stout and be like, God damn, this is fire. Like, you know, there's so many ways.
It's funny that like someone we both know, Matt Tweedy, he told me years ago, like, if you want to get a wine drinker that says, I don't drink beers, give them a sour or something like that, because they're used to that sort of flavor profile over a light lager. Like, oh, that's very interesting. I never thought of it that way. It's just that's what they know. That's kind of the way to bring them in. And it's a beer, and you give them a Belgian sour, and like, oh wow, I can't believe it blows them out of this beer. Yes, right.
I know someone rather close to me. I've known her for over 30 years, and she's maybe drank 6 beers in her life, and that's because she had to. But when my wife tried some sours, she was like, oh, this is not what I expected, and actually, I quite like this. I said, well, you're drinking beer. I'm not drinking beer, you know. And it's like, no, you know, but to your point, if there's a way to introduce people into these things, and wine, and she's a wine and cider person, and now she'll drink a sour, right? And so it introduces people that there's more than just so many different styles and different things out there. There's got, in my opinion, there's a beer for everyone.
Definitely couldn't agree more. It's yeah, and you're in that, once again, that fortunate position. Now you got this beautiful tap room and the food program as well, which was, I was saying to you guys off air, was some of the best food I've ever had in a brewery anywhere, period. That sort of like it's an elevated experience. If you want, you know, people wouldn't always associate a brewery as well with that level of food, that high quality. And then on top of that, you, like when we did the event, it was sort of like 4 courses, I believe, with like paired with a different beer, and you kind of got to really see how it could all go. So it was sort of like, it was like a really thought out, really thoughtful experience that was like I'm used to all this stuff, so it was like, and it impressed the hell out of me. So I imagine if there was somebody who was a bit newer to beer and didn't know that, 1, beer could taste like that, but 2, it goes with this elevated food. I think that is another really great thing, along with the gateway thing, and just being so welcoming and chill. There was all sorts of people on the patio yesterday, all different ages and stuff. I love that. But then now you're showing that, like, okay, people associate wine with food. I'm like, well, look at every single one of the beers on the shelf right next to you there will pair perfectly with something. I think that's something else you guys are doing really well.
Yeah, and credit goes to Chef Kennedy. She does a great job with the whole menu, and it's not all, you know, we do have some, you know, we've got some nice seared Augie tuna and stuff like that, but we also have kick-ass smash burger fries.
Yeah,
it's really it's hard to not have lunch up here every day.
I'm trying to do it because it's so good, but no, I agree. Like that smash burger and cake is fantastic. The fries, I don't think there's better fries than you know. And then the nice thing is Chef Kennedy, she's mixing it up every quarter and with new offerings for the seasons and such. And she really puts a lot of thought into this and what works well and such for the season. So not only is it, you know, she's the summer season going right now and tying it into the beers, you know, she's also tying in the fall. And she'll tie that into beers. It might be surrounded, I'm making it up now, but around an amber, right? Which is more of maybe a fall beer. And in the winter, there's something with the stout or something like that, or a Baltic Porter, or whatever the case may be. But it's certainly it has been great. So I appreciate that you mentioned that.
It's great.
We're real proud of Chef Kennedy and the job that she's done to bring another element of you know, high quality to everything we do. And I think that we speak about this all the time, that, you know, after health and safety, the number one thing is quality. That's it, right? That's it. You know, and we want everything to be great. We want to make the best beers, the best ciders, the best food, have great merch. We will take less margin on merch just to make sure that we get good stuff. I don't want someone buying a t-shirt, getting home, throwing it through the wash, it doesn't fit anymore. You know? All of that stuff being said, the reason all that stuff is great is because of the great people that work here. And from Chef Kennedy and her staff to our retail and taproom staff, the brewery staff, okay, they're not bad, they're okay. You know? They're fantastic all around. marketing team is fantastic. So it takes all of those elements to be successful. And so we're real proud of the entire lineup and the entire team.
That's awesome. I love it. And yeah, I definitely couldn't agree more that people always make a business. And everyone's always been lovely every time I've been there. It's so killer. The other question on this before we maybe get to the next beer was when you guys introduced this food program, because my understanding it's all quite new as a part of the rebrand. Is that accurate?
I wouldn't say it
Or
was
not quite.
part of the rebrand. Where
Okay.
it came into, Craig, was that we used to have this closet over there that we used to prepare some food in.
Okay.
And we had a charcuterie plate. I think we did
Grilled cheese.
we did grilled cheese for a little bit. There's a great bakery in the town here called Thornbury Bakery. And they would make sausage rolls, big giant sausage rolls for us. And they're the best sausage we could ever have. We sold those for a while. But, you know, we just wanted to elevate that food experience a little bit while we're here. And so we installed a full kitchen about a year ago. It's almost actually this month, at some point this month, will be a year old. And, you know, we baby stepped into it. And at the same time, we're not trying to be a restaurant. We're real proud of the fact that we're in almost every single restaurant in this town. And they're great supporters of us through our beer and our cider and all of our stuff. And we, you know, we have to offer food anyways. That's part of your licensing and everything. But we're just trying to elevate it a little bit so that if you want to get a shareable, there's a great shareable. You can come in here, have with your friends, your whatever. And then when they're looking for a restaurant that night, we've got almost every restaurant that we're in this community, from Collingwood to Owen Sound. Whatever you're looking for, we got a spot for you to go to. And so that's really important to us to support our customers in the town and our what we'll call our backyard. And I think that we've kind of nailed that spot. It's not a huge menu, it's a small menu, but it's high quality that pairs well with our office.
Speaking of shareables, I had the bao buns the other day. And not realizing it was a shareable, it was just on the app store. I was so full.
You just cleaned them up.
I finished them because, I'm me, but yeah. So.
Yeah, it's spectacular. I think we had for the thing, remind me, I don't know if you remember, General James, but I think it was the pork belly, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, so that was the special menu prepared for that event. But
Gotcha.
Yeah, the pork belly was
Bonkers.
fantastic. And there's a puree. I can't remember exactly what it was. It didn't last long enough on my plate for me to actually taste it, but it was very, very.
I was very disappointed to miss that particular event.
Oh, it's so good.
Because I don't like missing food, Craig. I don't like missing
I
food.
feel you, Derek. I feel you.
Yeah. And with the great people that were there, but I heard that was absolutely awesome. I had a lot of reviews from people that were through the group, so that's great.
I love it. That makes me very happy to hear that. My girlfriend and I have been talking about it probably at least once a week since. So it's like, God damn it, I got that pork belly. God damn. It was just so impressive, and you just didn't expect it from a brewery, from anywhere. It's just because it was not typical brew pub kind of fare, and it was just so like that's why I was asking you, was it sort of like intentionally elevated? And you kind of answered it already, like that was the way that you did it, but it's you just got that extra offering that just kind of switches it up and makes it
pork belly on the menu in wintertime.
Okay.
And then we switched up, but then she brought it back, but it was different. She changed it up for the event, but it was because there was several courses, right? So she made it smaller, obviously. And
it was small, yeah, but it was still very filling. And they introduced me to these weird things I'd never seen before. They're like little mini leeks that look like onions.
Oh, yeah.
What are they called?
I don't know. They were good though.
Yeah.
I will reach out to Kennedy and get that answer for you, though.
Yes, because I looked them up. I had to be like, what the hell are they? Like wild foraged thing. Maybe it started with S. It'll come back to me at some point. Okay, that was amazing. Thank you for breaking that down. So let's jump into the next beer, and then we'll get into the story.
Let's do the wit.
The wit?
Let's do the wit beer. That's our I'll pour it. So this is our latest seasonal that we just came out with.
Beautiful. I think this one was we had this with one of the courses at the event as well. So this is
we made just in time.
Just say that again.
We've just gotten it out in time, he was saying, for that event.
Oh, for that event. Yes,
So,
yes.
yeah, so, oh, 1 second there, Craig.
Yeah, we could pause.
Yeah, give us a pause, that's cool.
We'll be back in just a second. And we are back. And we are ready for some wit beer action, fellas. So you guys got the fresh pours. So this beer was ready just in time for the event in May. So this is pretty damn fresh right here. Tell us about this bad boy.
Well, it was a special request by Mr. DeLuca. It was pretty important.
Mr. D, as he's known, him and his father started the what I'll call the bigger company, which is Colio Wines in 1980. So it's been around for 45 years, and Mr. D is an amazing individual, and he was drinking a beer, let's say, that had a different name that was in this style that he was really enjoying. So he challenged James and the beer team to make him a beer that was in that style. And then these guys knocked it out of the park, and this is now his favorite beer. Well, it's a long, and he's got another favorite as well, by the way. But we're working on that, yeah. So this is one of his favorite styles of beer. And so James, the team, made this beer. I'll just say Mr. D really likes the blueberry pomegranate sour as well, and that's pretty impressive for someone to be in the TED group. But this was kind of his dream, and he loves it.
Cheers to him. And yeah, again, we tried, make it everything we try to do, or at least I try to do, is I do my best to make it our own, but also true to style.
Right.
I really do like to respect the history of a beer, especially like a Belgian Witbier is world famous. It's got a long history. So I try not to trample on it too much, and just kind of let the ingredients speak for themselves. And we do our best to make a classic Belgian style Witbier. It's got coriander, chamomile, and some orange peel in it.
Chamomile, eh?
Yeah.
Interesting. I've never heard of that in a wit. So is that like your twist, or is that like maybe a less spoken about ingredient in a wit?
I mean, it's not like we don't hit you over the head with it. It's all very subtle. But yeah, it just kind of lends a different note to it.
I think, as soon as you said it, I was like, God, I could kind of like taste it, like super subtle in the background, that little floral earthy kind of thing going on. Yeah,
subtlety is key. That's one thing I learned from the people I trained under when I first started in the industry. Is just you don't need to go over the top with everything. Just everything's got its place, and try to balance.
Yeah, go back to that. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
Yeah, but I want to make a whip beer for a while, and Mr. D came along and said, "How about this?" I was like, "Perfect! What a perfect opportunity."
Mr. D, that's a great idea. Let's do
it. I love that. That's super sick. So this is exactly as you're describing it. It's like that. The coriander and orange peel, obviously, as you would expect from a Belgian wit. It's super crushable. It's definitely, like you said, sort of subtle and smooth. This is not a style personally that I drink a lot of, so that's kind of why I like the pods as well, because it kind of like you just get stuff you don't, you get in your own little habits. It's fun, man. This is like this. I don't know, when I first got into beer in 2011, like heavy. This was like a style that was everywhere. Like I feel like every brewery kind of made, wheat beers, Hefeweizens, Belgian wit, things like that. They were super commonplace, and then it kind of like just fizzled a little bit, and then they became like fewer and further between. So whenever you do get to drink on, it's like, oh yeah, this style's fantastic.
I think things come into vogue and then they leave, and tastes change and develop. And I think a large part of that, I guess, wheat beer boom around the time from this, they made a fantastic wheat beer back in the day, and business changed, and exactly, but like I think that beer was fantastic. So I think a lot of that boom, I guess you call it, or probably due to that.
No, that makes a lot of sense. But this is fantastic. So now this one is that's the tap room series. So this was still considered a seasonal for now.
Single production run. I believe we made 1,200 liters of it.
Okay.
It's gone.
So not huge. So if folks want to get
back,
sorry, say that again, Derek.
If it goes well, maybe we explore bringing it back.
There was always this thing with the seasonals. We do one thing, we do it once, and it's gone. But no, like you do something, and if it does really well, bring it back. And bring it back. And this is one that has done extremely well for us. So we'll see how it goes. And then it's always interesting too, is that after you do a seasonal, it's the amount of people that you get asking for it. And that's a great indication, right? And we do get that indication here at the tap room because someone will come in and say, "Oh, the last time I was here, I had this wheat beer, and it was fantastic. I'd like to get all the sold out." Sold out.
I would say this beer in particular is very different from anything else in our lineup as well. We do have a couple dark beers. We got a couple sours. We got a couple IPA beers. We got got a whole line of lagers, but it's sort of the only one that's in that realm. So it does stick out a bit, but I like it.
Yeah.
That is a good point, I guess. Yeah. So it stands out more than some of the others because it's the only one in its category. Have you guys done, or do you do like a Hefeweizen as well, like the German style wheat beer?
Sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Sorry, man. Do you guys do like a German, like a Hefeweizen as well?
We have not done that yet, no, but that's definitely on the list. Probably maybe next summer. We've done an American wheat before, and we sort of made it almost like a table beer. We really knocked the alcohol down. It was like 3.5%. We made it was the raspberry wheat. That's what it was. It was for the Beaver Valley outreach. We did an American wheat beer with some raspberries in it. It was more like a table beer and just sort of it was a benefit.
Yeah, no, but that was great beer too. We should talk about that one again because that was great. That was a great program you're referring to. So here in town, we have the Beaver Valley Outreach Program, and they're an organization that does many, many different things for the community here. So we had worked with the radio station and promoted this beer and then donated, I can't remember what it is, so I don't want to misspeak, but we donated a big part of the proceeds from it. And I think $1 from every drop that was sold here went to the Beaver Valley Outreach Group and stuff. So that was a fun project.
So in terms of a Hefeweizen, not yet, but it's definitely on my list of something I would love to do.
Nice. I love that. This style, being that this is like the only one of its like category, I guess, in your portfolio, how have folks responded to this as far as, given the context of what we were saying before about maybe some people are newer to beer and they're like, what the hell is a Belgian Witbier type of thing?
I assume it's been going pretty well. I
guess you're at the back.
Contact with a lot of people in the tap room.
Well, yeah, we discuss it a lot, different things on a weekly basis. I'm probably involved in that stuff quite a bit too. And then, we're looking at beers, what's doing well, what's not doing well. And, I would say for this one right now, we're very pleased with the results that we've gotten from this one, and I just was in the back and put 2 cases away because I didn't want to see it gone by the next time I get here.
Yeah, smart.
I wait for my friend Rich at the office. But anyways, it's I've been looking for it, and there wasn't a lot of cases left in so that's a good indication.
Okay, that's awesome, man. Love to hear it, guys. This is a gem. It's fantastic. So then to continue or to step back a little bit from the conversation previously, we went into like the transition to Blue Mountain Brewing Co, which was probably really great to get into off rip. So to bring it back a bit, could you guys talk about both you individually, how you both got into craft beer, and then we can sort of lead into maybe the more in-depth history of the brewery from when it opened and so forth?
Sure. Personally, I got into craft beer. I guess it all started with a trip. So I'm Polish. My mom is Polish. She sort of sent me away when I was 16, 17, and just go meet your cousins in Poland, sort of thing. So I went, and they were a bit older, so they were taking me around to bars and stuff. And then I noticed, they were drinking. All I'd known about beer was, American light lagers. That's what my dad drank at the time, and that's all I knew because that's all I knew. I didn't know anything else existed. And then they're having, Varka Strong, and all these Polish beers that are so like they blew my mind at the time because they weren't what my dad drank. Tiskie, Okocim, all these Polish beers that holy shit, like it's wow. So I came back, told my friends about it, and then myself and a buddy of mine, Zach, we went to Beer Bistro,
Toronto.
At 16?
No, we were we were exploring, different beers throughout the years, and then I think it might have been 20 or 22 when we first went there, and then I just kind of pointed to a beer on the list, and I tried. Happened to be Saint Ambroise Oatmeal Stout.
Nice.
And I tried it, and it blew my mind. I can't believe this. Like, much like the wine people trying their first sour. This is beer. Like, I can't believe it.
A little different than Dad's late beer.
A little bit different. Right? So that blew my mind. My friend, we were just exploring craft beer. At that time, like, was a Tank House was like the craftiest beer on the market. So we started drinking that, and when I discovered Saint Ambroise Oatmeal Stout, my friend said, you can make beer in your backyard. Like, holy, you can? Like, you're allowed to do that? And so we started home brewing, messing around, and it kind of just grew from there, and my interest grew, and his interest grew, and we just sort of developed from there, and then my life became craft beer. So much so it turned into a career. At the time, I was in school to be a teacher. And then after 2 years of university, I was just like, I don't want to do this. I want to do beer. So I left, and I got a job at King Brewery, luckily enough. Super green, didn't know anything. I brewed maybe 20 batches of beer. I didn't know anything. And then Phil DeFonso, who was the original owner of King Brewery, just happened to give me a job and said, you look like you can sweep and mop, and so let's start you there. All right, fine, we'll do it. Anything, get my foot in the door, and then they started just grew from there, and progressed up, learned as much as I could from Phil and Steve, who used to work there as well before he started Tooth and Nail, and I got lucky, really. Just moved up, and eventually, Phil retired. I got to become the brewmaster, and the rest is history, sort of thing. So that was sort of an abbreviated version of my ascent, I guess, into my current position.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Stuck all the way through. I love it.
Yeah.
Because it's now been how many years?
I've been here since 2011.
2011.
Yeah. Your 15th year of brewing.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some sweeping and mopping.
There's some sweeping, mopping, lots of hand washing.
You're good at hand washing.
Working the packaging line, and it just, I got lucky. And then Colio came along, and was really a big boost, honestly, to the brewery itself. And I was lucky they sent me for an education. I got an education at UT, so I was very grateful for that. And here we are. A lot of years later, it's funny. I got a lot more gray hairs and a lot more chins from when I started.
A lot more chins.
Yeah. That's just because of your age.
That's just age. I thought it was all the beer. Okay. Yeah.
Probably a bit of both. Let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
Homemade quality.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks, man. That's great to hear. Like that full story. Like we got the quick version of it, I think, at the event, but it's good to hear that in more depth. That's wicked. Shouts to Matt as well. Matty's the man. Derek, what about yourself, brother? Like how did you find yourself?
It's not that exciting, Craig.
No?
It's not that exciting. I gotta tell you, but I'll give you the logo. But look, as far as craft beer goes, what got me into craft beer, I'll start with, is that, as a little bit older than James, and in the drinking beer in a lot of let's call it the late 80s and into the 90s, got very tired of domestic beer. Just got tired of the mass-produced domestic beer. And craft wasn't really available back then. But I remember drinking Formosa and thinking this was a better quality, and maybe I liked that one back then, but that was up in Canada, I think, and then I couldn't really find anything that I really liked. I had actually turned to a lot of the imports and was drinking different imports and trying different things, and settled in on a Czech-style Pilsners. That's what I really like. I like the Czech-style Pilsner. And so was drinking mostly imports at that point. Craft beer came along, started introducing into craft. I couldn't drink an IPA to save my life. I just couldn't do it. I just wasn't ready for it. Too much of a Ted, from our earlier conversation. but I've grown over the years, especially having James is now a good friend, and I've had some great experiences drinking beer with him. And quite honestly, I was still probably drinking some craft and a lot of imports until 10 years ago when we got into this business. And I originally, again, I told you it wasn't that exciting because by trade I'm an accountant, which is really boring.
Tell us more about that.
Nobody wants to hear about it. We call it fun with finance, but no one believes it. Right? And so I was really into numbers and stuff, but I don't even like accountants. It's just they ruin everything most of them, right? There's some good ones, but whereas I like getting involved in the stuff. James probably says a little too much, but I like being involved because I want to learn. I want to understand what we're doing and such. So anyways, I got into beverage alcohol 20 years ago in the wine business.
Okay.
And was with one company, and then I started with this company. I'm in my 15th year.
I started around the same time.
I started with
yeah. I was King.
Yeah. And
still
so,
separate at the time.
Yeah, and then so around 2011 I came to Colio and as the CFO, and as things progressed through, Jim Clark, who is my boss, the president, the ultimate president of the entire company, had a vision to get into like I said, to get into cider because it translates well with wine, and there was a market new and that sort of thing. And we didn't know whether we wanted to start our own, try to look for something. And in our place in phone calls and looking from, Jim made a call to a gentleman from King and Thornbury. And then a couple of days, someone was in our office with samples. And I think he was ready to be exiting the business and that. He was at an age that, he was ready to retire and all that sort of thing. And like I said, once I heard, wow, we have an opportunity to get into cider and into beer, I'm all in. Let's do this. Let's get going. And we, after a few months of negotiations and working through a process, we were able to finally purchase King Brewery and Thornbury, craft cider and beer, if you will, in February 2016. And that was a really exciting year. And so, we had 10 years that this past February that we've been in the business. I love it. It's fantastic. About 6 years ago, we split the company up into a couple of divisions, and we have the wine division and we have the beer and cider division. And I was asked to head up the beer and cider division. So I've been doing that for the last 6 years. And
right?
Yeah, basically, just brewery.
Yeah.
One of my projects was to help, look after the building of the expansion of the brewery and such. We did that during COVID. I don't recommend that to anyone.
That was a big surprise. That thing.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
We were literally in the middle of the build, and at the brewery back, they had just put all the partitions in for the pour of the concrete and of the foundation. And then we got the note that there's this thing COVID going around. I guess it's around March 15th or whatever that date was, 2019.
Stop everything.
Stop everything. And there was a time, Craig, that even the liquor boards back then were considering closing. You remember, like everything was shutting down and such. And I think, thank goodness they came to their senses, or else everyone would have went completely nuts without alcohol, right? So, but it was a crazy time, and we shut down the brewery because we just didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if we were going to get orders next week from the beer store or the LCBO. We just didn't know. And so we just said, let's take a pause, and we're not at that point yet.
There's no licensee business.
Yeah, there was no licensee business. I mean, we ended up, there's so much of this. Wow, it's really coming back to me. I remember showing up here on the Monday going, we need to cut the tap room down in half the space. By the next day, we closed the tap room, right? And so we put that on hold. And then when we started to it was August when we said, let's get this thing going again. Well, by that time, we lost contracts had been fled. There was all different things happening. And we started it back up finally in December. We had to find a crew from North Bay to come in and help put the framing up. Wow. And so
it was a big challenge.
Yeah, it was a big challenge, right? And so that was quite something. And going back to thinking about all the things that we had.
You almost forget, and then you think of
it. Holy smokers, right? And, I had a special note from the owners to be able to travel from Niagara, because I live in Niagara, to come back and forth up here and to make sure that we did this build and all of that sort of thing. And so
I'd say one good thing came of it was the only way we could have guests here for a long time was the igloos.
Yeah.
We came up with these little igloos that we would fumigate with sanitizer, and it was approved by government. So we had private, like on our patio, we had these little bubbles. People love them so much. We still have them in the wintertime. We cover them with lights, and it was just like a little.
We still do it every winter. We have 3 or 4 of these igloos we put out on the deck, and they have heat in them, and they're warm, and you get service in there and everything.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Little bonus.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, we even put through pickup windows through here during COVID. The community was amazing. I don't know if we're getting off topic here, but the community was amazing through the whole thing. And cars would come here, they would come up to the window, put an order in, and then staff would pick the order and slide it out through another window. And so they were great during that time. But
especially considering how new we were at the time. It's very well.
We're a little off topic because we're talking about how I got into how here.
It's all relevant.
But yeah, and so we were excited to get into the business. We knew the business was still fairly new in craft beer, craft cider even less. Like it was still even more new. It's the newest of the group, if you will. And then what happened to me was just really realizing after working with James and tasting these beers that it's all about great quality is really what it's about. And sometimes we get that name mixed up a bit when we use the word craft, but certainly I really got to say is that that's what really got me into it now. And really, I'm not drinking anything, like when it comes to beer, I'm not drinking anything but craft beer at this time because of the quality of the ingredients and the care and things that go into it. And there's a lot of great craft breweries out there, that is for sure. This one's probably the best. I'm just saying. As I say to everyone else, I want you to be the second best brewery. So, and that's kind of where I've gotten into it. And I have a love of craft beer, but I think as much as I have a love of craft beer, Craig, I really have a love of quality. I really do, like in everything, and that's what we do here, and that's been really fun. And my palate has changed. I do like IPAs now.
We got you there.
We got you.
Okay, so you snagged me. But yeah, and I love that it's been able to open up to different things within craft beer and such. And so yeah, I kind of have a kind of an odd way of getting into it. It's not all that exciting, but that's how I got it. It was through accounting, right? It was through accounting and finance. Love the space, love being up here. I spend a lot of time up here and with the team, and I'm always smiling when I'm here.
I love
At least
that.
I think I.
I bet you are. I believe it. That's awesome, man. No, that's a great sort of like little color with all of this stuff. So then to sort of quickly touch on the history of the brewery. So the original King Brewery was opened in 2002.
2002.
And where is that other building? Because that's where me and my friend went
Well,
years
you're
ago.
in, like you're in King City or Nobleton.
It's in Nobleton.
Which is otherwise known as Nobleton, which is really a King Road with 400.
Okay, so how far is it from where you guys are at right now? Like
An hour and a half.
Yeah.
An hour.
Oh shit! Oh, it's far. Okay.
In 27.
Here's a quick story because it is interesting. It's the tank sitting out there. Craig, they used to manufacture and make the beer in Nobleton, and we had a truck that its only purpose had a tank in it that the beer would go in the tank, and then it used to get trucked all the way up here where it got packaged in the basement.
So
we had the canning line here.
In the back. So there was a company that came along and purchased the way Thornbury and King got associated. The way Thornbury got associated in the first place. This company came along and purchased King and Thornbury, and then that's how we became tied.
What year was that? It's after you were there?
It was just before. So I think they bought it late 2010, and I started April 2011.
Right.
So it was just before.
So Thornbury Craft Cider, was that what it was? Just a cider company?
Still Peeler was it?
No, it probably was originally, but at the time when the purchase was made, I saw something about that. I'm sure.
I think it was Thornbury already at the time.
And
I think it was always Thornbury Cider because Thornbury Cider started in 2007, but not to get too far off the beer topic, they had a different name back then, but it was Thornbury Craft Cider where he got involved.
Yeah.
And then someone had come in and there was a couple of changes, Craig, but there was a group that owned both facilities but had them completely separate.
Yeah, we were separate. And then we started to make a lot more beer. So in order to meet volume, we had a Maheen bottling line in the brewery. So instead of that, we scrapped that, brought in 6 more fermenters and another bright tank. And all that space, we didn't have a packaging line anymore. So now the idea was to get a cold truck with a tank shoved inside it that we would filter beer onto and truck up to here, and then they would package it here.
Not ideal.
It's not my favorite.
Not ideal.
In terms of maintaining quality, it posed a lot of challenges. All that moving. We had the tank specially built with baffles and everything to make it safe to drive. They had this little truck, and oh man, what a nightmare. Anyway, those days are over. Yeah, so that's how we first initially got tied together with King and Thornbury. Was there's a company, I think they were an importing company, and then they were importers, and then they got into manufacturing that way. And then that company sold to another company, and not importing business side of it.
Yeah, when we first got here, I mean, the brewer was all made down there. There was no tap room, no nothing up here other than a basement that had the cidery cellars in it and the packaging in it. And that was it.
Was it in the same building?
Yeah. And so, and there was none of this stuff here. It was a dirt parking lot.
No patio.
No patio.
No signage.
No signage. People didn't know what was going on here. The building itself is really quite interesting, and we can cover on that later. But we're in a 95-year-old apple storage warehouse. Is essentially what this was.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there was nothing here. And then over time, we built this tap room. We put a patio on. And, we slowly continued to just improve upon this building because, in the end, we're now 44,000 square feet here on about an 18,000 square foot footprint. So there's quite a bit here. And we
including the basement, there's 4 floors.
Yeah.
It's a really old building. It's an interesting space.
Well, you got the tour. What I like to tell people is that if you were going to build a brewery, it would look nothing like this. A brewery inside in a tap room. We fit everything into a 95-year-old building.
Which is awesome. And then, so now it just hit me now. When we were doing the tour, I remember where the actual fermenters are. It was pointed out, it was like, you can see the original brick from the outside. So what you were describing during COVID is the extension to the building where now the brew house and all the tanks are.
That's all the
All
stuff. That stuff moved up from Nobleton.
Yeah.
We had it in storage for a long time, and it finally got put in place. And yeah,
Oh, that was quite a process too, and you're right. And where the brewery is originally, up until 2000, I think it's 11, there was another building sitting there. And I found some old documents and blah blah blah.
Oh,
There was an extension there. We found it in the ground when we made the brewery.
Oh,
We found all the concrete in the walls, and they buried it. And so it was quite a process because we had to underpin the building on the back to be able to hold the weight. And we had there's been a lot, right? And we did all of that.
all these little surprises. We have a river that runs under.
We have a river that runs underneath the building, hence why we have such great water in this community. And really, it was quite something. And so when we built the brewery, I built a few. I've been part of groups that built a few tank pads before, and you pour 3-4 feet of concrete with more rebar than you've ever seen, and go to town. Well, we couldn't do that, otherwise it would have sank in the ground. And so that 5,000 square feet that's back there sits on 48 helica piles, they call them. And what those are a big metal rod, that's very strong with a screw on the end, and they screw them into the ground until it hits bedrock. Some of them go down 40 feet. So the floor in that brewery is actually only 8 inches thick, okay, which normally wouldn't hold the weight, but because of the way that the building has been engineered, is why that building will never move. It will be there.
Interesting. That's fascinating. I'm getting the pictures. That's insane.
Yeah. So it was crazy times and the things that we've gone through doing that.
A little surprise.
Yeah.
We have to do this. We have to do this.
Yeah, we have to do this. Oh, we got to do that. And it was funny. We only found it in the ground when we went to put those big helica piles in there. There's something in the way. What is it? Oh, it's the old building. So there's a lot of history to this place. And again, it's even going back originally, there was a wood building here back in the 20s, and it burned down in 1928 or 29, based on the history books that we've seen. And they redid this place and built this, and it was the Mitchell family. Now, you wouldn't even be old enough, even if you were living in Canada all your life, but James isn't old enough, and I'm just barely old enough. Now, the other Derek is way older here. There's another Derek who's way older than me. We want to get that on the podcast here.
2 Dereks, one old, one youthful. Gotcha.
He's really much older. Born in a totally different year. And but he lives in this community. He knows everyone, and he's told a lot of great stories. This is where they used to store apples in this building for years. There was a processing plant across the road, which is now a strip mall with different things, but it was originally an apple storage processing plant. And when we do tours of the building, we still have some of the old piping up in the second and third floors, what they used to use to keep the apples cold and sort of during the storage time. The walls are anywhere from 8 to 10 inches thick, and everywhere else insulated with 4 inches of cork. And this is how they did it back in 1930.
Wow.
And so it's just it's like the ambassador of the company in this building. And every year we've been able to do something else to the building, whether we started with the tap room, where we put a new, we had a canning line in the basement that at best did 20 cans a minute if it was running, Now we have, we have a new canning line that does, I think right now it sits up around 72 cans a minute.
Yeah.
We added a pasteurizer into the process for cider and some of the beers and other things that we do, because we now do RTDs as well. And so we've been adding these things in. When James came up here, we got him a gift. We bought him a centrifuge, we got him that for the beer process. We've just been adding little things on every year and trying to improve and grow and that sort of thing throughout the time. And it would be great to bring some back of the original owners of this building and show them what it looks like today, because it's night and day. And there's some great history to this building, which
really cool.
Lends to the story and makes for great tours and such. And it's kind of a neat place to hang out.
Hell yeah, that's fascinating. You know what? I want to keep going on. I want to jump into the next beer, but you mentioned the apple thing, and I know it's beer, but you guys make cider too, and I'm super curious. And I kept seeing apples. We went to Meaford, and you see on the sign on the way there's an apple on it. I'm like, okay, there's something going on with apples in the region, which I know nothing about. So I definitely want to tap into that a little bit.
Certainly, why don't we do that? Why don't we get the next beer? And if you want to talk about what is the next beer going to be, Craig?
What? Oh, it's on me. Shall I choose, or I feel like I can.
You're up.
You're up.
Oh, it's a lot of pressure. All right, what do we got? Okay, we got a couple dark beers. We got some sours. Oh, 2 dark beers and 2 sours. Okay, all right, okay. Yeah, okay, if it was me, what would I normally do? I wonder if like some of the fun parts about the pod is that people would put beers in different orders and I would drink it.
Sure.
I don't want the sours to get lost in the dark beer. Is it wise to do like we wouldn't want to mix them up? I would imagine, as in like sour dark, or something like that. That probably might be too.
I think we should probably finish with the Baltic Porter.
Yeah, that's the biggest for sure.
So what do you got? You got the 2 sours, and then you've got the oatmeal stout. Is that what
Yes.
we got?
And the porter, exactly right.
Let's try one of the sours. Pick a sour.
Okay, let's do the passion fruit orange guava.
Good choice.
That's always a phenomenal combination. The old pog. Do you want to pause for a sec while James gets that? Maybe. Yeah.
Sounds great. Let's take a little bio break.
Yeah, we'll be right back. And we are back, and we are ready for some sour action right here. I don't actually think we tried this at the event. Now I think about it. Yeah, I don't think we did. I guess it's more of a dessert thing than probably like a something that would pair. Actually, I'm probably wrong there. I'm sure it pairs with something fantastically.
I'm not a big pairing guy personally. I'll have a beer with anything. I mean, beer goes up with everything.
Yeah, you're right.
With a pizza or goes with weight. Like I don't really follow that. There's definitely merit to it. I'm just too lazy.
Hey man, I don't blame you. So like we said, we ran with the this nose is crazy.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, my gosh, beautiful. Passion fruit orange guava. Now, what do you guys use like the fruit puree for this?
Use a puree, yeah.
Yep.
We use a puree.
Okay. And how long does it? I guess you sort of so this is like a kettle sour. It's
So for single brew, it takes 2 days. So we'll mash, water, get the wort, and then we'll sour it overnight, and then we wait for it to hit the right pH, and then at that point it's boil away, and brew's done on the second day. We'll ferment it out just like normal ale, and then when it's time to package, we'll filter it very lightly, and then we'll blend the puree with the bright beer in the bright tank, and then we'll filter it a second time just to get the chunks out.
Gotcha.
Chunks don't go well with packaging a beer, especially canning a beer. It's hard to can chunks.
Yeah, I don't know how they do all the smoothie sours when they're doing that, but this is intense, man. This nose is crazy. It's clearly, is it sort of heavy, like it's super tart, but so I imagine it's like a sherbet. It's like an orange passion fruit sherbet. It's glorious.
It's when we hit on this, we were experimenting with a bunch of different combinations of fruits, and when we hit on this, we were really happy with what we got. Everybody that tasted it was like, "This is the winner." Much to my surprise, it's exploded. Like the bars that have picked it up, like that we're doing about 30. Let's say 30 hex a month now of a sour that I never thought we'd ever make. So it's pretty cool.
That's fun.
I think it can still grow from there. I mean, sours, as we look at it, is still one of the smaller segments of beer. As we'll look at it this way, like, IPAs are the strongest or whatever, and it's different categories. Sours is still, as much as it's one of the smaller categories, still one of the fastest growing categories. And so it's been interesting to be a part of that growth and seeing what you can do. And, this is where I think what you guys do really great is that you stay traditional to what you need to do. you got your own twist on it. You found the flavors that really work. And look, I'll be honest, I couldn't drink a sour before I got here, right? It was not for me. And then I was introduced to fruited sours, and I'm like, wow, this is really great. And so this is regularly stocked in my fridge at home.
It's sort of a, like you said before, it's like a gateway. Those people that wouldn't ordinarily try a sour, it's a foot in the door sort of thing.
Yeah, I can see that. It's like I'm just like taking some quick tasting notes as I'm doing this. Like it's got like it's like tart and tangy, but in a balanced, approachable way, along with the just the right amount of sweetness. Because sometimes with sours they can be like the barrel aged one you got making in the wine barrels. That's intentionally like puckering sour. That's typically how those barrel aged sours are, because it's just
to be legit. Yeah,
exactly, to be legit, stylistically on point. Those are for a very niche audience.
Very niche, yeah. Super
niche. And you don't see them super often. There's only a few breweries that do them these days. But kettle sours are much more common. But this is like such a great approachable one that, once again, I feel like it just aligns with sort of the ethos and the way that you guys approach the brand. And I can see why it's been so popular. It's like as soon as I open the can, it's like I can imagine, and like people are getting it poured in draft, and it's right in front of them. You be able to smell that immediately. It's fantastic. And such a, like, I guess that pog thing seems to be a popular flavor combo as well, and they work so well together. It's wicked. You guys nailed this. I love it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're happy with it. And then based on this one, we're like, okay, let's try other things, and we came out with the blueberry pomegranate. We've got a few more things in the hopper ready to go that we really liked.
That's all secret, right?
All secret. So
you got to stick around. You got to visit Thornbury.
Right now, the pog is here to stay, and then we're going to rotate through all the other flavors as well that we've discovered along the way, and try them out. The blueberry pomegranate seems to have been a hit. So,
well, I come back to Mr. D, and that's his other new favorite, is the blueberry pomegranate.
More importantly, my girlfriend loves it. So,
well, there you go. That's good.
Always important. Yeah, and once again, that's great that the sours are sort of really kicking ass. It seems to be a style that, like you're saying, Derek, that it's like a smaller segment, but kind of quickly growing. I've spoken to people who are maybe newer to beer and like, I only drink sours. I know some people who say that, which is sort of almost like an interesting thing. And they're not drinking like smoothies. That's more for beer nerds. But the nice, really well done kettle sour I feel like it has a great place. Like, who doesn't want that? It's always a good time for that. Yeah, this slaps. This was the first sour, just to confirm. Was that correct? That you
originally this was originally a trial batch. We split it. We did part of it was the brewed more guava, and the other part we just did a dry hop sour.
Gotcha, like a Berliner, so Berliner base type thing.
Yeah, and then this was the beer winner. Everybody asked for it. I think it sold out twice as fast as the dry hop sour, and like, we love the dry hop sour in the back, but I think the customers really preferred the passion. So,
right.
Especially when you're introducing people to something they've never really
we
tried. This is a lot more easier and approachable. You get that sourness and all of that, but really you're getting that nice balance with the fruit and everything. At least that's how it got me introduced to it. And
you can find a lot of our customer base are new to craft. You come around these parts, they're just exploring, and
yeah, they
don't. We kind of like revel in that role, I guess. Just kind of introducing people to newer.
We have this conversation all the time. Who are we and what are we trying to be and all of that sort of thing. And, there are some breweries out there that do a really great job on a couple of beers, and they're really well known for that beer, and they do a great job. And some of those beers are more, for lack of a better word, a little bit more out there for the average person. For the beer nerds, it's right up their alley, but we're getting, I think because of the traffic and because we're rural, we're getting a bigger variety of people come through here, rather than someone saying, or Blue Mountain makes a great blah, 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 we're going there, whereas we get so many variety of people. If we were in Toronto, for instance, there's breweries in there, they do something, they do it really well, right? And so people go there for that one particular, but you're pulling from a much bigger audience down there. Here, we're pulling from a smaller audience. So we're getting a lot of wide breadth of likes and dislikes.
Right.
And so this is where I think that we talked earlier about being a gateway and that. I think we do revel in that idea. It's that, hey, you never drank a lot of craft beer before? We got a light lager for you to try, or something else to try. You've got a little bit more experience. Here's a hazy IPA. Here's a blonde ale. Excuse me. Here's the sours. Those different things. And here's stouts, and really giving a wide breadth. So we're touching a lot of the major beer categories, and there's something for everyone.
That's I hadn't thought about it as the smaller pool of drinkers that you're dealing with up there. That's actually a really good point, and all the more reason to sort of, I guess you got either way. You either go hyper niche or you go like, hey, something for everybody.
Yeah.
To sort of tackle both. I love that. So then that was actually a really good segue to what I wanted to talk about next was not necessarily the demographics, but sort of what's going on in the region. I'm a little newer to it, been only there a few times. I did notice some signs talking about wineries in the area.
Yes.
And then a lot of apple based stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just iconography on signs, So if you guys just maybe speak to, like, obviously that, to me, I was like, oh, it's like an apple area. That's why Thornbury cider. Like, well, am I making that up, or is there a connection there?
No, Craig, you're bang on. A great observation. So in this area here, otherwise also known as the Nottawasaga Bay area, okay, we are the largest apple growing region in Ontario.
Okay, that explains
it. Makes sense we have a cidery.
Right. So it makes sense to put a cidery in that area. Right? We grow close to 30% of Ontario's apples in this area now, and I grew up in Niagara. Niagara always wants to be the big one, and they're not. And I tell them that all the time. It's not you, Niagara. You got the wine, and we got the apples. So, but it is a big apple growing area, and it has been for some time, and really is the foundation of this building. And when I was back in the 20s and the 30s, this business was owned by the Mitchell family.
Okay.
And for those of us that are probably Generation X, or maybe a little bit older, when we grew up, it was a big white can of Mitchell's apple juice on your kitchen table for breakfast. Back in the day, it was one of those ones where you had the opener, you pop the one side with the big end and pop the other side with the little end, pour in the can. And that's what they were doing up here. And there's great stories around the whole thing. That George Mitchell, he had his own airplane. So we had a little landing area out here. We had the train going by. There's a small town next door to us called Clarksburg that's part of the Blue Mountains as well. Because Thornbury's in the Blue Mountains. We had the Clarksburg Fair, and we have pictures from 1912 of very large pigs giving rides to full-grown men. Hence our mascot, Clark the Pig. So Clark the Pig is involved in everything that is done around here. He's actually he's my boss, and he's always in the building somewhere. We just never find him. But yeah, there's a lot of history to the region and such. And so when we're talking about apples, we are right in the middle of apple country, and there's many apple farms around here. Basically all selling into one area and to one group, and then we get juice from that company to our specifications brought into here. And we have become Ontario's largest craft cider producer. So we're very proud of that. And it's because we have such great growers in the area. The growers here do such an amazing job. And it all starts there out in the orchard. That's where it all starts for that. And we're in that area, which is great. So it lends to the story well. We're able to get some of the best product out there. and bring it in here and make award-winning ciders. Again, we only look at using the highest quality. This area here makes high-quality apples. In fact, Ontario, really, in the cider market, is one of the best producers of cider in the world. And we're winning worldwide awards, cleaning up out of Ontario. So it's, we talk about offering something to everyone. I mentioned earlier, my wife's not a big beer drinker. I still like her, but she's just not a big beer drinker.
I still like her.
I still like her.
That's lovely.
Yeah, she is lovely, right? She doesn't drink beer, other than a few sours from time to time now.
You
know,
trick her.
people
I like
come
that.
here and are not beer drinkers, so they can have a cider, or are not cider drinkers, so they can have a beer. There might be a little wine behind the counter as well at the bar there as well, because we are, a decent-sized wine company. But it allows us to offer up everything to someone. So if you come here with a group of people, with your wife or your girlfriend or whatever, and friends or family, you've got a group of 7 or 8, there's going to be someone in that group that doesn't like beer. I don't understand it, but it happens, Craig.
It's strange.
And there's someone that doesn't like cider. So we've got a little bit of everything to offer to people. And so, again, you come up here on a weekend or on a Saturday, you're going to be having a great time, get a fantastic tour. You can get a cidery and a brewery tour. It's like a 2-for-1 deal.
What? And you're not a drinker? We got water. We got the best
We
water.
have the best water in North America. But it's funny that you say that. But there's a guy that has, from time to time, made some of the best root beer and cream soda stuff. And then we use that and add it with water and carbonate it. And we have a flight for kids that way. So,
right, that's right.
So we have a flight for kids here. So if you come here with your kids, you can get a flight of, there's apple juice in there, root beer, cream soda, and you can get that kind of flight for your kids. And
That's so dope.
So it allows you. And then on Saturday and Sunday, we have music every afternoon.
This guy has appeared a few times, more than a few times. This band.
But yeah, like it's a great opportunity. So we get great musicians from the area, and there's always something going on. So you can come up here with a group. You got great beers. You're gonna have right now. You've got 13 beers offering. So a choice there. There's about 20 ciders on tap. There's some wine in the bottles. You alluded to some pretty good food coming out of the kitchen here, right? We have great musicians, right? And we have great staff. And the staff will really make everything really gel and really be fun here. So you have a great afternoon here and come and hang out. It's a fun place to be. And
right.
We're very dog friendly, right? So we've got bowls. We even have water for the dogs. It's the best water for your dog.
The best water for the pups. Hey, that's important. We bring our dog. Our dog's been to more breweries than most people have, so that's important. We like to always talk about that. Okay, this is fascinating. So thank you for that context. So I know we're talking about Blue Mountain Brewing, but if it's cool, I want to just touch on the cider side just for a little bit, since I remember when I came to grab the beers yesterday, I was like, oh, you guys got a bit of everything. We were talking about exactly that, and I gestured to the bar, and what I thought was bottles of liquor were a plethora of awards. And now I'm realizing I'm tying it all together. I think it might even be that shelf right behind you guys.
Oh, right. There's a lot of beer awards up there.
Conveniently located.
Conveniently, right in front of the cameras. How did that happen?
That worked out, Craig.
Just very crazy.
Fluke.
Just a fluke. So with the cider side of things, are you guys doing it in the same facility? Like, are you making the same cider, the same fermenters and everything, or is it separate?
Cidery's in the basement, and the brewery is the new addition. And then packaging in the middle, sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay, so we didn't see the basement. That was probably why, because we were there for Blue Mountain Brewing, so it would not make sense to show us the basement.
Where James and I are sitting right now with the cidery is the reason why it was there from the beginning was there's no elevators in this building that work. There's an old elevator shaft that has a cart stuck in it in 1932, and they will not allow us to use it. So we only got a new elevator in the building, I think, 5 years ago.
We had 3 floors that we couldn't use.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you could play hockey, floor hockey in those floors, right? So that's where it started, and as we developed into the different areas, was when the brewery came up on the section. So so cider lives in the basement, brewery lives on the other end, and in the middle is packaging, and we can move liquid from one corner of the building to the other corner of the building. So if we needed to bring beer down to another tank here for some reason, we can do it. If we need to bring cider up to one of the bottling tanks that we do have in the brewery, we can use that.
2 ciders in the brewery right now.
We got 2 ciders in the brewery right now. They're all getting along very nicely. They all get well, they're teasing. But yeah, so we have everything in one building. And this is what I was saying, it's a 2-for-1 tour because, you get to tour not only the cider and how cider gets made, but you get to tour the brewery and how brewery's made. You get to meet in the middle and see the packaging area. People love to see things like the depallet, right? The depalletizer. They just love to see stuff like that. But ours is kind of cool because it lives on a different floor than the canning line. Because this building is weird. It has different levels for every floor, different heights. Oh. And the decal wouldn't fit in the floor with the packaging line. So we put it up on the second floor and tasked our company with making us what I like to call a can elevator. So all the cans come off on the second floor, go around, and then come down through a hole in the floor, or the ceiling if you're in the packaging room, and it flows right out of there. It's like canned heaven. And on that floor, in the other floors, it was really tough to store cans, especially as, the height of cans. And that floor is a much higher. So we were able to put that all together and to do that. So, we coexist quite well. And then in the basement, we also have a big cold storage area, but we do not have enough warehousing here. So we have warehousing in different facilities as well, and a third-party delivery company that we house a lot of stuff in their cold storage. And we have an office in Mississauga that also stores about 5,000 square feet of product.
Okay.
So
this building has posed a lot of engineering challenges.
Yeah. Again, I come back to it.
It's more interesting, right? It's fun to get
storage.
Exactly.
It's got storage.
Yeah, stories are great. And I mean, you can't really go wrong with as you're cruising into town and you just see the big red Thornbury building right there. It's very imposing. It's very like, this is our town.
Welcome to the town.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And the history of it is it was originally an apple storage warehouse. It was a fallout shelter during World War II.
Oh.
It was a munitions storage area because of the thick walls. It was a flea market. And had some little restaurant thing in it. It was used by a soup company as a storage facility for a number of years.
Wow.
Someone then bought it and decided they were going to make it into condos. That didn't go very well. And then, don't you know, in around 06, 07, someone bought the building up and started making cider in the basement.
Okay.
And that's how we got started here. And then we've talked about the history of the companies coming together, but the vision was always to have this together. We continue to, invest in the building, and we just spent a considerable amount of money on a new chiller for the entire building and such. And so that, we continue to do that. The kitchen was last year. And then our next plan is we've got kind of 2 more rooms to finish, and one will be a new event in a couple of years.
Yeah.
A couple of years.
So it's just about this tap room. So, we'll continue to do that, but
Building will fill out.
yeah. And we hope to be here for a very long time. We've invested a lot of money into the building and into the town and such. And the town's been nothing but supportive, the community, in supporting us and buying our products, coming in and visiting us, and yeah, it's a really great place to be. Really great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. So are you guys on a different floor than when you walk in from the patio?
No, we're right in front of the patio.
Okay, that's where I thought. Okay, because I think I misunderstood. I thought you were.
Red bar. That's the best place to get drinks.
No, totally makes sense.
I noticed your glasses empty. Is that
you guys or?
Should we be moving to the second south?
Yeah.
Is that what we should be doing there, Craig?
You know what? This is exactly what I was talking about earlier. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yes.
Let's do it. That was fantastic. The
Well, we know what we're going to next. It's the blueberry pomegranate sour.
That's right.
they are indeed. Would you like to pause for a sec while you acquire that?
Good. Yep.
Yep. All right. We'll be back. All righty. Guys, it's time for the sour number 2, the Blueberry Pomegranate Sour. Look at this bad guy right here.
Mr. D's new favorite beer.
Mr. Shasta, Mr. D. So this is like brand spanking new. This is newer than the slope side, right?
Yes. The slopes have been around for a little while now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And once again, this is taproom series, the sort of seasonal, arguably, for the summer.
Yep. It's one of them. Yeah.
Oof, look at that color.
The sour and the Witbier are the summer seasons. Yeah.
The 2 summer. Okay, perfect. That's good to know. That is a beautiful, like, kind of like off pink head with this big, bright, glorious.
It turned out even better looking than we thought. Like, we'll do trials and stuff. The color came out fantastic. We love it.
It's very sexy. I could even see it from you guys before I poured it here, and I was like, God damn, it looks awesome. Yeah, tell us more. This is 5.3%. Kettle sour, similar vibes to the slope side.
So it's the same. It's the same base, same
Same
kettle sour base. Yep.
Okay.
And from that base, every time we brew the Pog Sour, we'll pull 20, 30 liters, and then we'll experiment with different purees and different flavors and go from there. So this was, we knew we were coming out with another summer seasonal. We said, all right, let's do another sour. And we had a tasting panel, and everybody agreed this was the top choice.
There's a number of.
We've got a few like that.
Don't give away our secrets.
Most recent round of tastings, we came up with a couple of good different options that we'll probably see in the future.
Yep.
That everybody really liked, but this was like the number one. Everybody seemed to really. It was hard picking, but this one was the top choice, I think, by far. So.
Honestly, I can see why. It's like pomegranate is one of my favorite fruits. I always feel like it's a little underrated, and I don't see it very often in beer. And imagine it's probably I was gonna say if you use real pomegranates, it's a pain in the ass, but maybe if it's a nice puree, it's probably fine.
And I thought that the tart nature of the sour and then pomegranate has a sweet tart sort of flavor as well. That they would pair well together, and then the blueberry just sort of sweetens it up a little bit. And, just gives it a little bit of a wider flavor profile. Yeah.
It's like it's got this wicked like tannic vibe to it, which is fantastic. That it's sort of like drying. It's super dry, which makes you want to take another sip. Similar to the last one, it's not overly sweet, tart and tangy. This is less tart and tangy than the other one, but obviously it's passion fruit. That's kind of a bit of a tongue puncher, which is, well, in comparison, still very restrained, but this is glorious. This is really good, man.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Super. I can see. So this one, I forgot to ask earlier, do any of these seasonals, do they tend to get some sort of distro, or is that kind of more of a go direct to the source type of thing?
Sorry, I didn't
Get more of a distribution, you mean? Like
exactly right. Like, does it hit licensees?
And I think that's new hip lingo that I'm not, right up there.
I thought
Greg's a young guy. He's a young man. He's very hip and everything.
Look at all these gray hairs. I'm so young.
That's true.
So-
Okay, I see.
So, with this one here, again, this is our summer seasonal. And what we've learned over time is it's better to baby step things out there sometimes than to just go on crazy, right? So we know that a lot of these beers are proven and true over the years, whether it's our light lager, our pilsner, our amber, our dark beers. Nail it. We got those, right? And then we've introduced these over time and had really great success. Now, the passion fruit orange guava did really, really well, and then when we got to this one, this is the newest one. And to your point, so it's now on distribution to licensees on the passion orange fruit guava. If this passes the test of the tap room, meaning that overall we get a lot of feedback from the customers, and if we get two things, we get all the positive feedback, it sells out in a specified amount of time, and people are asking for it, we got to win. And that's when we'll start discussing next steps for that one. Bigger brew sizes, more offerings, then we'll offer it out to people. Then we may even bring it to the bigger levels of commercialization. And that goes for all of our products. They all go through these phases to make sure that we've done our homework. And in that way, when we're talking to buyers of large corporations or large people buying large amounts, we've got some data to back us up. And now we've been able to say, hey, we had this one, and this was one of the ones that sold out and it did really well, and blah, blah, blah. They will go, okay, because when you brought that story to us now before, we've had success. We're not bullshitting you. We're giving you something because, and look, we've had some, not a lot, but we've had some that were a bit of a flop that didn't do really well. Doesn't mean the beer was
They were good, but not necessarily
for the consumer.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we'll say those ones stay here, or we'll give it another try, or we'll move on. And sometimes we've moved on from some things and such. And right now we're at a spot. We're in the honeymoon phase with this blueberry pomegranate right now. We're just trying to learn to get to know it. People are getting to know it, and we'll see how it goes. And if it gives us the success that we kind of got predetermined, then this would go to the next level.
Completely understood. That's a great plan. What's the just out of curiosity, how long does it usually take? How much time does it need in market for you guys to start to get an idea of that? This might be one.
I'd say with a seasonal, essentially, look, we kind of give a seasonal 3 months,
okay.
Right? So we do them quarterly. We give it 3 months. We have the gentleman that is in charge of all the tap room and hospitality. His name happens to be Derek as well. Again, he's much older than me and very experienced veteran. And he's got it kind of nailed down that if you give me this many cases, I need this many kegs.
Gotcha.
And so we try to run everything out at the same time. It's not a perfect science, but it's usually pretty close. And because Derek always, if he's selling it in the back, he wants to have it on tap up front. Right? And, there's been a couple of times where product is sold out in less than a month. And that's a big indication of, wow, we think we got something here, right? We've had it before where we've done something and it sold out in 6 weeks. And we said, you know what, we've got enough materials. We're going to make a second batch for the seasonal. And the next one sold out in 3 weeks. And then you're like, we got something here, And so, it really comes down to sales, right? Again, I think the guys, the gals make amazing products, right? I think our team does amazing products, but some things don't transfer well out to a bigger audience. It just, it just is what it is. There's breweries out there that do one thing, that's it. They do it well, and then there's some breweries that do lots of different things and do it well. So it just, again, it just works where we're at with our audience and our community and our customer base, and we get a lot of good feedback that way. That's so again, if it does, if it does well, then it'll go to that next level, and then we can start offering it up for our licensee program and see how it goes from there. And we'll just keep pushing until someone says no. We'll just keep going.
Gotcha. So then, okay, that makes total sense. 3 months is a great time period, and I guess you're right. Like if it sells out in 6 weeks and 3 weeks, then you're like, all right, we're onto something with this. For being that you've got 10 core beers, like say if just like for example, if this blueberry pomegranate goes bananas, people are just losing their shit over it. Would you like if you decide, we need to make this like regular? Would you just keep adding to those 10 cores, or would you like swap it out for the least highest performer?
Great question. We're very early in this whole thing, and we haven't gotten to that point yet. And I think that'll be a very interesting discussion with our sales and marketing team, our brewers, our staff here, as to, is there an opportunity? Because you're right, and it has happened over time. is that some products live a lifespan and kind of die off of it, right? And sometimes we've even had this happen where seasonal became what I'll call, for lack of a better word, a core brand. Let's call it a core brand. And then over time, it just kind of falls off of it. It becomes a seasonal again. And so we have had that happen in the reverse before, because, and some of those have been beers and or ciders where maybe they're a little bit more for a season themselves. If I could, I'll use an example, and I know we're on a beer podcast, but I'll use a cider example.
Yeah, that's perfect.
We had cranberry cider. And cranberry cider was one of the first ciders. It was probably in the original 5 or 6 ciders that were ever produced out of here. Exploded. Did really, really well. Was in the LCBO for years. And then started to slowly kind of die off of it. As new things come in, and new is always great, right? Things change. And don't you know, it's now become, it's going to be a seasonal, you know? And because people have been asking for it. Where's the cranberry cider? So it continues to be produced and sold here. We don't have it in the bigger areas, but maybe in a season it'll come back. Same thing happened with another brand we had where it was its full-time listing. Then became a seasonal, like a seasonal at the LCBO. Then it was regular. And then it went away. And they've just accepted it back because the history shows it'll do well as a seasonal. So it'll go back as a seasonal. So we can have the reverse happen from time to time. And, you know, I think we're just always open to.
Yeah. I mean, it makes it like I don't always want to drink. I love a beer. I don't want to always drink the same beer all the time. So it's fair enough. You know? Sometimes you get in a groove, and I'm just like, I want to remember this all the time, and try something else for a little while, right? So
yeah, that makes complete sense. It's like with everything, I guess. Yeah, tastes, palates, what's popular, ebbs and flows, and at least that gives you guys the flexibility. I like that plan. I just like that's logical, and like it's a good way to kind of test the market. And it reminded me of some like. Excuse me, forgive me if you've already said this, but I know obviously the whole Blue Mountain switchover was very new. Of the beers that you've got sitting next to you there, how many of those were existing as under the Thornbury brand prior to moving?
I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that fair?
yeah, I mean the dark.
Hazy, the light lager, Pills are under a different, even the King, the Amber, and the Session IPA.
I mean, even like so, the ladder on the ridge line, the dark, and the Pilsner, they're all
Those are King recipes.
Those are King beers. They're the same as they've been since the start.
A little fresher, but
Well, no, it's not the same. Yeah. So
That's a great dad joke.
The ladder on the ridge line, and the dark are all King beers.
Right.
They go back to before I started working there, right? So
That's cool.
and then when we, to your point though, it's a great question, is then we were trying to get to the point saying we're gonna have 10 beers, we're gonna have 10 core beer. That's where we're gonna start. If it ends up at 12, it could be 12, might be 9, right? It just, this is where we start. And when we went back through the history of things that were seasonals and that had done well, I would say with the exception of one of them, and I'll come to that one, was that, they had done well. We've done a stout before. We had done a coffee stout, we've done an oatmeal stout, we've done a stout, right? The oatmeal one kind of stood out. We said, we're going to do a stout. That's the one we picked.
a little bit.
That's okay. That's okay. But it was good. But I love it. So I'm a big stout fan. So that was great. And then, we knew sours was growing. We had done it. Okay, let's pick one sour to be in the core. And it was the passion. Up at that point, we had to try this one. Not that it would have been the one, but that was the one at the time. The Blonde Ale, we wanted to try something in that area because we hadn't been in that area. So that was a new one to come there. And then the Ultra Lager. And again, that's an area where that's a real introductory gateway beer, if you will, But what I was standing aside, and I've tried them all now, because I never drank those ultra lagers, is that that's the best ultra lager that's out there. It actually tastes like beer. So many of them taste like water.
When you say ultra lager, is that like with the locale? Like
That's a low cal. So 4%, but 100 calories, 4 carbs.
Jeez. But it tastes like beer.
And it tastes like beer.
4%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but yeah, 100 calories, 4 carbs. And, what I've had a lot of people say, especially in that, what I'll call the TED area, that are like my friends and all that, is that our light beer tastes like a beer and our ultra light tastes like a light beer.
Okay.
Compared to the bigger masses out there. And I think that's what these guys have been able to nail down, is be able to give people what they're looking for with way better quality, way better flavor, way better value.
I guess that's the message that needs to come across when we're back on that gateway thing to folks who are, macro drinkers. Just get one of these in their hands and.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. It's all about liquid to lips, right?
Yeah.
We always say we need marketing to sell the first can.
Mm-hmm.
Marketing's got to sell the first can, right? After that can, it's got to be what's in the can that continues to get people buying, right?
That's it.
And with the awards that this team has won, once we get them tasting it, we generally get customers for life.
Which is so cool. And I guess you guys have that sort of brand reputation as well as the footprint to allow people to access the beer. At the very least, they'll be familiar with, they'll learn quickly about Blue Mountain because you're in that earlier phase. But there'll definitely be that brand recognition once they realize that it's a rebrand. I don't think that's a bad thing at all if people are aware that it's.
Yeah, I get a lot of questions about, you're in Thornbury. I'm like, yeah, well, we're Blue Mountain. I'm like, Blue Mountain, okay. Beer. I get it now. It's like the separation. I think it's really important. It's working.
Good.
It's working with people to differentiate us from the cider. So.
We have been at a beer award before where we've heard the comments, "Hey, the cider guys won a beer award."
Okay. So they I kind of forget that King Brewery was relative.
I don't think that history is in. A lot of people don't know that history.
Gotcha. So that's
it's
part of the.
But you know what?
It's not something. It's not something.
Sort of history now.
Yeah, it's not something we shy away from because we did the 20-year anniversary of King, and
Right.
we've got some things throughout the building that remind us of our roots. We've kept all of the older stuff. I don't want to forget all the times the things. I mean, not that I was that time. What are the roots? Where did this come from? I'm big on collecting all of that stuff and putting it into the building to make sure that people know this is where we started, this is where we came from, and this is where we are today.
Got awards in the brewery that say, King Brewery,
Yeah.
Lager, King Brewery. It's part of my history personally, but it's interesting. Yeah, so I think the separation of the two is important.
Yeah. Particularly now.
Before, but I think it's around. Yeah.
Right. And you guys sort of I didn't realize that before this conversation that the Thornbury cider had been so highly regarded and highly awarded. So it kind of makes more sense when yesterday, James, you were saying that some people just don't kind of what you guys were alluding to, that the cider guys want beer stuff, that it's like that would be why, because it's so highly regarded and it's such great product and people love it already that they just didn't.
We're in the middle of apple country,
I totally understand it. It's very understandable though. Like if you're not a beer nerd or if you're not really diving deep into the, I don't know. I feel like if you're into coffee, if you're into wine, if you're into beer or cider or even just a foodie, I feel like you kind of look into stuff a bit more. That's what I've discovered over the years as I got into all this stuff. So we are the minority, I guess, people who are doing that. So it's how do you put that message out to people that
minority is very important because you build a base on that. You want to appeal to the people that really love. but you do have to you got to appeal to a lot of people, especially in our area. You can't just don't have to be a secret.
No, that's true, and it's tough too. Is that in the grand scheme of things, beer's been around for 1,000 years. Whatever. It's been around a long time.
Yeah.
When we think of this word craft, it's called 25 years in Canada. I mean, that's really a young industry, right? And at this point, the total amount of beer sold in Ontario, only 13% of it's craft.
I even heard maybe it is 10. I thought it was 5, but maybe it's changed.
So
that would be Canada. Maybe it's like more in Ontario.
Total craft beer in Ontario,
Mm-hmm.
so 13% is craft.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking Canada stats then. Okay, so 13% Ontario.
What you might be thinking about is that I don't want to pick on them because they're good friends of ours at the beer store. But it's just a reality of the business. It's not a critique. This isn't it's just what it is. Craft beer is hardly even 2% of the total sales at the beer store.
That completely adds up. Yeah.
Right? Because people are buying big domestic brands. That's what we've been used to. I think this is going to change over the next while. I think we're going to see more incremental business for craft beer. More outlets are happening. Beer is not being sold in the traditional way that it used to be, where it's, you can find a few imports and a couple of crafts at the LCBO and your cases at the beer store. It's all changing now. I mean, there's been more changes in beverage alcohol in the last year than there has been in the last 100. That's how we feel about it in the industry. And so, as we now get to a point where what I truly believe, Craig, is our government here in Ontario has finally realized that beer and all alcohol is no longer a sin tax. These are economic drivers for the province.
Facts.
Right? The fact is now there's 350-ish craft breweries in Ontario. Some of those are brew pubs and such, but nonetheless. And they're across this entire province. The smallest towns have a craft brewery.
Yeah.
I just ran up north yesterday through Huntsville, past 2 breweries up in the north area. And there was more. Those were the 2 I passed by. It's not just a central region where wine has kind of 3 central regions in Ontario, although there's a whole other thing about emerging regions. We're not even going to touch on that. But beer is across. And, there's been the latest changes from a taxation point of view that they realize that it's better to sell a 100% Ontario product and keep all the money in Ontario than to sell an import where 50% of the money leaves the country. It's gone.
Right.
It doesn't do any benefit. It doesn't help my neighbor put their kids in dance and hockey, right? And that's what I think, and I think this whole elbows up thing right now has been huge for the craft industry. I've had bars tell me we have taken out all of our American beer and put in only Canadian beer. Nice. Now, that's a United thing, and I feel bad for some of the American companies because what's happening is not a craft brewer's fault out of New York, but it's just the reality of it. But craft beer and Canadian, that idea of Canadian in Ontario is really growing. And we've seen it at the LCBO, at the beer stores numbers. We see it in our own licensee numbers, and there's something that's really coming. So craft beer as craft products right now have their best opportunity to get a good stranglehold on the consumer.
Right.
I don't think there's been a time more to say buy Ontario than there is today.
I agree.
Or maybe buy Australian, but maybe not, right?
Well, I'm also Canadian, so I mean, I can.
There we go. All right, perfect. But I think you were originally from Australia, weren't you, Craig?
That is correct. Yes. So Australia always had a big. They always had this little. I got some Aussie paraphernalia around, but I don't see it. But there was always this little green thing that said "Made in Australia" with a kangaroo on it.
Yep.
That was a really big thing just my whole life growing up because it was always, Australia was always so geographically isolated. So anything that was made locally was always really like focused on. And I lived in Montreal for 10 years, so everything in Quebec, between Quebec and also Vermont, I learned a lot about. They're very passionate about their own products in a way that I hadn't experienced, say, here in Ontario. And in Vermont as well, like I'd go to a restaurant and they'd have a thing on like chalkboards. It'd be like all the farms where the cheese was from, all the farms where the meat was from. It'd be, they knew the farmers and they were so connected to all the different elements. You know, Montreal, you go to a gas station, you can buy cheese curds for poutine at the freaking gas station.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild, but I was like, oh, okay. So we learned more about, like, whilst I grew up seeing the Buy Aussie thing, it wasn't like an ethos that anybody I knew particularly cared about. But in Montreal, I was like, oh, okay, Quebec really bangs with this, beautiful, and Vermont did that. So then coming back here, now we're in Hamilton, and it's, you know, we go hyper local to the butcher and hyper local to, I know all the cafe owners that we go to. I know all the breweries. I know the fish people. Like all of those hyper local things has become a thing, and I very much agree that it's more than ever. I think it's all of this stuff has opened people's eyes to the importance of that, and that's a really positive side effect of it. And like you said, stripping the LCBO of a lot of American products, and then the local bars and things like that give a chance to anybody else, like particularly, you know, Blue Mountain Brewery, to be like, well, you might not have been stocking us before, but hey, this light lager could replace your American brand light lager, and it's very cool. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a very cool thing. So on that, I do want to get, I know we talked off air about the all the taxation stuff that's happening here. That's a great segue, but do you want to do the oatmeal stout?
The oatmeal stout.
I love your thinking.
Waiting.
All right.
Oatmeal stout and then porter is what we're doing. All right. I love
Oatmeal
this.
stout and porter. I'll do it. I'll pause again just to make it easier, and we'll be back in a sec.
It's beautiful.
And we are back, and it is time for boom, oatmeal stout. Look at this little glorious gem right here. This one, if I'm not mistaken, at the event in May, it was paired with the dessert. Does that sound about right?
It was a deconstructed chocolate cake.
That's what it was. God love. That was
Very
wicked. That was a banger. A little, like, this is 5.4%, so the perfect low ABV. I feel like this is one of the most, when I say these stouts, I feel like I would, every drinking session, I would love to have a low ABV stout. I just think they're just such a fantastic kind of like end to a session. They're just like, there's so much flavor. Look at that head.
I love the way you pour that. That was
Beautiful. Well done, Craig. You've done that.
Hey, just a couple of times, unfortunately, for my belly, but you know, the glass makes it look beautiful. So oatmeal stout, I love it. Tell us about this one, fellas. This is
So as I mentioned before, the St. Amboise Oatmeal Stout is what really got me into exploring craft beer and home brewing. So this is sort of an homage to that beer.
hell yeah.
Not exactly the same, but it's got a similar sort of profile. And this is a beer that I can drink any day, all day. And some people like a stout in the wintertime. On the hottest day of the year, I'll drink this. I don't care. I love it. So it's one of my favorite styles. I kept it lower ABV because
You like to drink more than one or two?
well, exactly. Drink more than a couple, right? So someone I know likes to say, I like to get drunk on a lot of beer. It's one of those.
That's very technical.
Exactly. So I really enjoy this beer. It's roasty. It's got body to it, but it's dry enough that you have more than one. It's not one of those beers where you get halfway through and you're sick of it. Or at least in my opinion, I don't think so. I love it.
You know what? I could actually see the Saint Amboise ode. Something about that particular beer has like this like super dryness and almost like a if I'm not mistaken, like a touch of like a licorice kind of in it.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like that the body of this is reminding me of that once again. Because when we had it, it was like 4 or 5 ounce tasters, so I didn't get to have like the full pint. Yeah, this is money. The nose is beautiful, great roasty chocolate, a little bit of like slightly bitter coffee vibes in there, very smooth, but it's also
Flavors, yeah.
yeah, but it's also light enough.
Speaking of the coffee, I'll bring this point up here because this will be a fun fact for you.
Break it down.
Remember when I told you James and I really have a love affair with food, which a lot of people do. We also have a big love affair for coffee.
Okay.
So, not dissimilar in a lot of ways to the guy in Breaking Bad that used to make that perfect coffee. James is a hell of a brewer as well for coffee. And so he has a whole system out back. When I'm up here, my first text is, "Hey, James,
Is there any coffee?
is there any coffee?"
What do you run? What's the system?
It's a Chemex. I love a pour
Chemex?
over.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And then in the summertime, we do a lot of iced coffee, which is the Chemex is great for as well. So I'll do a lot of Japanese style iced coffee. In the summertime, we're all melting in the back, so it's a nice little treat. Yeah. So there's the building iced coffee, and then there's the brewery.
Oh, that's totally different. No, that's like,
So treat for the brewers and Gary.
yeah. Don't tell anybody about this, though.
So it's
No one's gonna know.
it's all my own stuff. I just brought it from home because I just can't have.
I love them for it. I say that, Craig. I love them for it.
I'm a little bit of a fancy boy, I guess.
Hey, you know what? I'm with you. And this is what I always feel like people who appreciate good food, good beer, good wine, good cider, good spirits should also appreciate really good coffee. I hate seeing someone who drinks craft beer go and drink, whatever, Tim Hortons or Second Cup or something
A
like
lot of the brewers I met, they're all mostly very good cooks. They can all cook. Every brewer I know is a good cook. At least, they can appreciate a good meal, and they know their way around barbecue, and they can put it together. So I think it all goes hand in hand.
I think so too. Not all the time, unfortunately, that I've seen. Not everyone seems to get it, but more times than not, yeah, people like appreciate like a good specialty third wave single origin coffee. That's
Good coffee. Let's have good coffee, right? Like,
isn't it the best?
Go so many rounds around the sun, right?
I mean, sometimes I'm tired. I'll grab a Tim's.
What?
And
you serious? How dare you, James?
Sometimes you gotta. But
You can edit that out, right, Craig?
You know what? I just told you off air that I don't edit it. That's going to be edited. That's I don't want to put that on James. He doesn't.
Yeah.
Deserve it.
So I mean, when I can, I love a nice coffee. So
Yeah, and I just bring that up again because just what I love is your love for making great products. I love that, and we share that with food, with coffee, and other things as well. But the beers are just you guys are not. They're incredible. It's great.
my glass has a hole in it.
Have you guys used coffee in beer? I know you mentioned earlier briefly, Derek, that you guys have done a coffee stout before.
We did a coffee stout.
Yeah,
we did a coffee stout. Yep. It was good. It was fine. I like this though. I try to keep things pretty simple. That's, I guess, my sort of MO for beer styles. I try,
It's trying to find balances though too.
Yeah,
Right?
balance, and just if you can do with 5 malts, instead of using 7 or 8 malt, use 5 if you can, right? Like, to achieve your goal.
Right.
If I can use 2 or 3 hops as opposed to using 7, 5, I try to keep it as simple as possible to have a clear. I guess I have a clear vision of what I want, for each beer to come across, right?
And you're not covering things up. Do you know what I mean? Because everything is the subtle, this of things, right? Whereas there's a lot of beers out there that overhop things to cover up maybe not such a great beer. Right?
I don't know about that, but yeah. So it's just.
Well, I think that
I've heard that before. Yeah, it's like brewers have said, like, "Oh man, I fucked this beer up. Let's chuck some extra hops in." And
but it covers
doesn't-
it up.
it doesn't mean all good. Not all IPAs, obviously. I like that.
I'll just say this because I think to me it's important. We won't do that. We'd rather let that batch go start again, and to try and cover up a mistake, try and cover something up or a fault. It just, again, goes with our whole premise, if you will, of we want to do everything the best possibly that we can.
No, I mean, look, yeah, sometimes things happen and you do what you got to do, but no, I totally feel it. This particular beer as well. So now this was available pre Blue Mountain, right? This was a Thornbury brand.
It was a Thornbury seasonal.
Yeah,
Thornbury seasonal.
Regular. Yeah, it's regular. That's correct.
Regular now. Okay. And as far as availability, I feel like, just to clarify, since everything's so new, I want to make sure that people can see the beers that we're drinking, they get excited about it, because this is fantastic. This one is obviously available from the brewery. Is it out in the world a bunch yet, or is it still probably?
It started out in the world of licensees.
Okay.
It's out there, but what it is right now is that it really only became available very recently, a couple months ago. So what we're trying to do here, Craig, is that we're giving samples to our team so that they can go out and maybe secure a line for the fall or for the winter.
Gotcha.
Just because
getting ahead of it.
Love the stout, not the time of year. Unless you're James Wilson, right? But
it doesn't matter.
I love a stout.
Right, and I love stouts too. You and I definitely have that in common as well. But it's not for everybody during the summer. So what our team is doing is just trying to get it ready and introducing it to their customers. And we've had some comments saying, "Love the stout. Well, let's look back in the fall."
Gotcha. That makes sense. It's not for every.
Because it's hard to get on tap, sell it without a taste, right? So like you go to a listing and we want to sell you this and so okay, I'll take samples. Well, we don't have to get it yet, right? So it's hard to
So that helps us why we have the 10 core in a lot of ways, that there are samples available at any time for our salespeople to take into their customers.
Gotcha.
So if they get the opportunity, we say, "Yeah, bring me what you got," and they'll bring the portfolio and taste them on it. And then they're like, "Yeah, we'll take this one for now. Talk to me again in the fall about that one or the porter or whatever the case may be."
Gotcha. That sounds about right, though.
it's
Okay, I love it. This is great. This one's fantastic. So then, carrying on from what we were just talking about before, the situation in Ontario with the tax changes. I know, like you said, Derek, there's been more changes in the last year than the last, decade plus. What's the deal with the tax situation? I followed it, but I don't think I followed it as close as perhaps you would have. So do you want to maybe break it down?
Sure. I mean, in our company, we're involved in all facets of beverage alcohol.
Yeah, sure.
We got beer, we got cider, we got wine. We also now have our spirits license. We're making RTDs as well now.
Amazing.
And we're very, very small in that, but we're starting, right? We're learning and we're baby stepping. And what happened recently was, one of the things that the government did is we knew that they were opening up choice. They felt it was important to open up choice and open it up to convenience and grocery. So where we went from roughly, we would call it roughly 2,000 locations to buy beverage alcohol between the LCBO, the beer store, breweries, cideries, wineries. There's about 2,000, give or take. Now we've opened it up to another, 2,000 grocery stores and up to 8,000 convenience stores.
Wow.
And so it really has changed. Now, they haven't all jumped in because there's reasons for that, because everyone's trying to make money doing it. And there is certain rules in place that the companies had to change and such. And so they opened that up. But at the same time, they realized what we really need to, and I think it's for the constant government relations that all of these industries do. I can tell you, one part of my job is I speak to Ministry of Finance on a monthly basis. And then sometimes 4 times in a week when things are going on, right? So there's a lot going on. And And so recently, with all of those changes, they've changed a lot of the markup rates or the way that they tax things. Now, we could talk for 4 or 5 days on taxation, but I won't bore you now. But what really has happened is, and I go by this, is that the government has finally realized that these breweries and all the other industries that are within Ontario are economic drivers. They're providing real jobs, real good paying jobs to people. And we needed to push on that. And I think they realize now it's better to take a little bit less off the top for the longer run. Because out of that, out of all that money that they're spending, again, if you buy an Ontario product, 100% of the money stays in Ontario, somehow, some way. There's some small exceptions to that, but generally it's all there. As soon as we sell and import, 50%, if not more, of the money leaves the province. It's gone. And it's supplementing jobs somewhere else. And, Ontario is such a melting pot of cultures and different things, and a lot of these cultures want to support homelands and different things. I think we're getting to that point that we're all Canadian, we're all Ontarians. We got to support Ontario and keep the money in here. And what it's really done is it's allowed all of these domestic industries to really invest back in themselves. I mean, you've been around long enough. You've seen a lot of breweries change hands, correct?
Very much so.
You've seen a lot of breweries. I heard 2 fairly, good-sized breweries. I don't get the names. Just one bought the other one. They're joining up.
Yep.
Right.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and good for them on that. Right?
Yeah. They seem happy about it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what's happening is because they're trying to find synergies within themselves to find a profitable way. Because believe it or not, as much as people think, this beverage alcohol has been a really tough place to make money in. It's really tough. And I'll pick on the big companies in Canada here. When you're a craft brewery, and everyone's a little bit different. I don't want to get into the different taxes on who does what. Let's just call it that 1/3 to 1/2 of your money right off the top is gone. You got to give it back. So it's gone. Big, giant consumer good companies, they don't pay any taxes on their products, right? These huge companies, without naming them, might pay some corporate tax because they made some money. I can tell you right now, all the 350 breweries in Ontario would all love to be paying corporate tax because that would mean they're making money. But they're not, because a lot of them are losing money because of the tax situation that they're under. Now, the government, I think, has finally come to that and said, hey, we need to fix this, and have lowered those markup rates and the amount of tax that they're taking out of off the top, which is allowing us to reinvest into better equipment, better facilities, invest more in our people, with training and sending them to courses and all of that, and continuously making ourselves better. I think we're at a real turning point right now in this beverage alcohol world in Ontario. Real big turning point. And a lot of this doesn't come effective until August 1st. So we're still selling our stuff with the old practices and policies. We're all very much looking forward to August 1st. Because starting August 1st,
break it down.
Changes are across the board for beverage alcohol.
Okay. Do you know, this is what I remember, tell me if I'm incorrect here. From what I saw at the OCB conference, I believe in comparison to say Alberta that might pay 10 cents per can in the taxes, Ontario breweries are paying $1.20.
I know where you're coming from. We're a little bit off with the numbers.
Okay.
The one we generally talk is on a hectoliter.
Okay.
Right? And Ontario was basically paying around $80 in taxes on 100 liters.
Okay.
Okay. So about 80 cents a liter that you're paying in taxes. And those taxes are broken down into 3 areas. And one of them is the markup rate on beer. Another one is another tax I'm not going to get into. Another one's the environmental tax, which I will talk about a little bit. So we basically went from about 80 down to 60. Yes, it's true Alberta does pay less. we've made quite an inroad there in Ontario. But the difference in Alberta as well is that as while the taxes may be lower, there is a price to pay in Alberta for distributing beer,
Okay.
distributing any products, because everything's done through a central region. So all the warehousing, all of the picking of the orders and all of that that's done is a separate charge. Whereas in Ontario, that charge is included within your tax structure. So it's not as clearly cut and dry as some people like to make it out to be,
Gotcha.
right? Because we're not comparing apples to apples here, okay? And, you know, we're getting in a better spot, but with the exception of the 60 packs in a neighboring province or whatever that cube is priced at, we're actually one of the lowest prices paying for craft beer in all of Canada as a consumer. So craft beer here that might go for $3, you'll find in most other provinces for more money. So it's not exact science there, right? It's not like they do it exactly the same way.
Gotcha. Different factors.
So,
okay.
and then there's been discrepancy between what a beer pays versus a cider versus an RTD, and that's all going to change under this new what's called refreshment beverage group. Now their work category that they're working on, which will mean that we're all going to pay the same tax in about a year.
Okay.
They all got different things. The way they do it right now, it's convoluted. I like to call it the tax matrix. Remember the matrix where all that stuff was going on? That's how the tax system works in Ontario and Canada. So, well, what's going to happen is that beer, cider, wine coolers, everything under 7%, all going to be taxed the same.
That's cool.
And that's the way it should be.
Right.
That's the way, and there's other parts of the world that do it this way, that it's on an alcohol ban rather than what you're actually drinking as an ingredient base. But this is what I was talking about before, is that all of these rules have come since Prohibition, and they've just all layered on top of each other, decade after decade. We're talking 100 years. And what the government just did, which is the most positive thing that has happened to the beverage alcohol industry in 100 years, was a full fixing of this. And there's more work to still be done that they're working on. That, and I have to give them credit, is that this government is listening to the industry and have come back with, and have listened to a lot of things and have come back with these changes that are only positive for everyone that is in Ontario. And I really mean this. It is really a positive thing for Ontario. And this whole elbows up by Ontario, by Canadian, by Ontario is the best thing that could have happened to us, I think, and all of the things that are going on out there right now. This is fantastic for our industry and really for Ontario as well, because it just means more people are going to be employed. There's going to be more Ontario jobs. Whether it's in packaging, making, hospitality, all of those things is really key. It's really key important. Because with those big brands, there's no tourism comes with any of those big brands. No one's coming to Ontario to go see some of these bigger brands, but they are coming to this region where we have several breweries, several cideries, and I want everyone to be successful. I want everyone.
Everything. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think we're just at a really, really interesting point in beverage alcohol that, you know, we're no longer in the sin business. We're in the economic driver business. And I think that's really important.
Definitely agree with that. We did a presentation at the OCB a couple of years ago. We were looking at the economic drivers for the industry, and it was something like, I'm going to get this wrong, but it was like, even based on the percentage of sales from in Ontario specifically, from macro beer to like the local stuff, the actual like figures of what it's of the amount of households it supported, I believe, was in the like hundreds of billions of dollars annually in Ontario from all the craft beverage companies, kind of what you were speaking to. And it's so like undervalued as far as what that contribution to the province and to those households and to how many people are supported by this industry that is being taxed out the ass, and now it seems like that's going to change. I did want to check though. Do you happen to know what was it? The election? Was it the tariffs? Like what sort of like inspired this to happen for them to finally listen and change something?
Constant and unrelinquishing pressure from industry.
Fantastic.
Lobby.
There's lobby
Yeah.
groups for all the industries. All of these industries have committees that are government relations or use a government relations company to help them.
Gotcha.
Right? So the OCB you talked about just now, they have a company that they use that helps them with all their government relations. One of the gentlemen in that group used to be one of the people at the Ministry of Finance that I used to be. On the craft cider section, I happen to chair the government relations committee for cider with the government. So I'm on a regular monthly meeting with government. I'm just talking about the industry and things. And, you know, I think it's because of that. And in the wine business, there's those people, there's spirits people, and we're continuously, you know, going to government to talk to them about our industries and what we really could be doing. And I really truly feel that we got a government that's listening, that they really want to make sure that they put things in place that allow for a really great domestic industry. And they really, the changes that have come and that are going to be effective August 1st are massive. And I only think there's more positive to come for the industry. And you look at countries around the world, you know, I'll use this as an example, because I hear this one a lot. When you go to France, you get French wine. When you go to Italy, you get Italian wine. You don't find a lot of Italian wine in France and vice versa, right?
Right.
Canada's a bit of a melting pot. Not a bit. We're a lot of a melting pot, right? So we've got all of those things. What we're doing is creating this this industry. And people are starting to buy in now with the whole elbows up more than ever. I mean, for years we talked about, should we put it that we're Canadian made? No one really cares, right? Recently we do. You know, it's a big thing. And we've seen the numbers growing and such. And, you know, this is where I think the government finally realizes that it's better to keep 100% of the money in Ontario than let 50% or more of the money leave the province.
Right.
And the effects of jobs and the amount of jobs that it creates and the economic benefit that we provide as an industry to Ontario is only going to get bigger now.
For us, we started with what, 5 people?
Oh.
How many people moving up in the building, right? 25, 30?
Well, at any given time, generally in here, you know, you're right. When we started this, like when we bought this, there was maybe, you know, between the two sides, 5,
maybe 6 people.
maybe 6. We'll even go crazy. Let's call it 6, right? But at any given time now, between our brewery team, our cidery team, our packaging team, and our hospitality team, it's administration. And most of the administration is not even done. We have this amazing lady that works here, by the way, Cindy, and she puts up with all these guys, and she's fantastic. She has my full support. And there's about 25 to 30 at any given time working in the building.
Right.
Right. And our company has other areas that it's grown as well, and it continues to grow. So we're one example of many other success stories that are out there that are growing their business. So if 100 breweries went from 500 people to 20, we've now gone to 2,000. You know, and that's we're just talking small numbers here. So lots of great things to come.
That's awesome. This is really great to hear all of this from someone who is so tapped in, and thank you for being so transparent with all of that, man. I think that's awesome, like being on those boards. And I hadn't even heard about the government relations companies. I hadn't heard about that side of things. We actually have Scott Simmons from the OCB on next week, so I'm gonna.
Well, fantastic. Well, so like in the OCB as an example, we just had our AGM there about a couple of weeks ago. Had some big discussions there. That was over at Great Lakes Brewery, another fabulous brewery. there down with Peter and his team, and we had the whole conference there and did the thing there, and it was great. Scott, I worked with Scott because I chair the finance committee for the OCD.
Amazing. Okay, so it's all tied in. I like hearing. I like it when like folks who are involved in the breweries are really involved in this way in the industry bodies. I don't know. It seems that's like it now more than ever it matters, and it's cool to hear how involved you are, and therefore how involved Blue Mountain and Thornbury and etc. You know, it's very cool.
And we are, and you have to give credit where credit is due, and that goes to Jim Clark. Jim Clark is our president of the entire company, and has always believed in being involved in the industry and being at the heartbeat of everything.
Yeah.
And Jim's in every LCBO opening and all of that, and he's very involved in that way. And, you know, he really supports having his executive team being involved in all parts of the industry. So we have people in all of, and some in multiples, different areas of the industry, and really in the heart of the business and the industry and helping to grow it. And full credit to Jim on that. That's his vision, and I love it, and I love being a part of it. It's been a really fun and exciting part of my job.
That's awesome, man. I love it. Boys, how about we can take the pause, we get the porter, and then we'll bring this bad boy home. I did want to talk about when we come back. I want to talk about the next part of this, the taxation thing, which is the opening up of the the more free trade within and throughout Canada, and what you guys think about that and how that impacts every brewery that I've spoken to. Seems to have sometimes a slightly different take on it, which I think is fascinating, just to see sort of some people are really excited about it, some people don't care at all. I think it's fascinating. So we'll take that quick pause, and we'll be back with the with that final big boy.
Fantastic.
Alrighty, guys, we are back with the final beer. We are hitting this bad boy right here, the Baltic Porter. Look at that can. This is a sexy can. 6.6.
Shannon did a good job on that.
Yeah.
This is Shannon does all the artwork?
Shannon is our she's marketing guru. She's our senior brand manager, and she is in charge of doing all this stuff, working with third parties and doing all the packaging and all this stuff. And Shannon is absolutely brilliant.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. I feel like she's a little humble then, because she just helped invite us to the event and help coordinate the pod, but I didn't realize she's doing all this awesome stuff. That's great.
Yeah, she's really great, and she lives down in Beamsville. So
she was telling me in Vineland sort of area.
Man, I just thought I'd make it easier for you, but she's like a neighbor. But
hey, I'm basically a local now out there. I love it. It's the best. It seems like such a sick place to live out there.
It's great. I love it.
Maybe the water isn't as good as Blue Mountain, but it's up there. So this little gem right here, this is the Baltic Porter. So this is 6.6%. So what would be, if you want to speak to the beer itself, the difference between this bad boy and the oatmeal stout?
It's a little bit more. It's got more body. It's not quite as dry. It's definitely a heavy hitter at 6.6. It's a big beer. I love this beer. It's warming, but it doesn't have that sort of hot alcohol aftertaste.
I also, just from my perspective, I don't find this as like a really filling beer. I look at it and think it's gonna be, and it's not. Like, I feel this is just. I drink a few of these.
Yeah, it starts off big, but it finishes really mellow. And it's smooth.
Dark
I like this beer because it's a little bit of my own personal history, just from where my mom's from and stuff. It's a nice warming beer. This is unlike the stout where I'll crush it all day. So I'll have one or two and I'm good. But
it's also 6.6.
Exactly. So
people don't realize how
it's flavorful. It's not quite as roasty as a stout. Yeah, I love it. It's won some awards. We barrel aged it a while ago just to give it a little bit of a different note. But yeah, it's we come out with it every few years. It's not
Every few
something that
years,
we come
okay.
out with every year. The last time we did it was about 5 or 6 years ago.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a
It's
hit
just-
when we have.
I'm not surprised, and you are right. Like immediately, it's very different. It's exactly like I'm a big fan of Baltic Porters and just dark beers in general. But this is fantastic. It's got that like kind of like dark fruit vibe going on. It's bigger for sure. Even though it's like what 1.2% more in this sort of realm, though that is actually quite significant. The like a bit of caramel toffee kind of thing. The roastiness of the malts is definitely amplified. I see. Yeah, I feel like even the lightness of the body in the oatmeal stout allows for what you were referring to with it was like you had 2 3 4 of those and you wouldn't really it's no different to having a dark lager or something. Excuse me, but when you have something like this, it's a little more like you said, Derek, not filling, but a little more intense in a good way. Yeah.
It's got the intensity. There's a fullness to the flavor, but yet, like,
It fades away. It's just clean.
I like this a lot. I feel like this is arguably this and the sour, probably even the blueberry sour, were probably the more intense beers, which I think is also cool because coming back to the gateway thing, you're going to have maybe this might appeal to some newer beer drinkers. You never know, but it's like if I was going, if I'm in the area, like I was just in the area for Canada Day, which is also my mother-in-law's birthday, and we had 7 of us at an Airbnb in Blue
My
Mountain.
son's birthday is Canada Day.
All right, that's a great look at that. Cancer, great sign. Great
birthday off every year. Anyways.
Love it. No, it's perfect. They celebrating a country on the same day. It's awesome. But the so we went up there and it was if we didn't really go out because we how it goes. You go to an Airbnb with people and you end up getting an absurd amount of food and alcohol and you're like, we bringing most of this back. It's crazy. So we didn't really go out, but I was thinking beforehand. I was like, all right, I know my girlfriend and I are good. I know my mother-in-law. I brought her to enough breweries, so she knows what's up. But everybody else, I was like, I don't know how comfortable they would be, but I love the idea of that if you go to somewhere like Blue Mountain Brewery and you're able to offer something, whether it's cider or the wine for other folks to be like, if I'm feeling beer nerdy, I could have something that's more punchy like the sour or either of the sours or something like this. It's sort of like, yeah, I like that a lot. I like that balance, and it's been cool throughout this. This is great. This is really well curated, this lineup, as far as like, going from a light lager to this. Money. Love it. Love seeing the breadth of the
I really, and again, I'll come back to this. This is a conversation. There's been a lot of times around that conversation, right? But I really do feel that this is one of our strengths, is that breadth of change that we can go from a light lager to this type of beer. And the qualities, they're not just making this beer to give us something else to offer. There's passion, there's thought, there's care that goes into developing it. There's a lot of input from other people, on the team, whether it's, whether it's marketing or sales or whatever, like, there's input, but like the care that goes into saying, no, if we're going to do this, we're going to make the best porter we can make. And so I really feel that this is what sets us apart from some of the other areas. And not to speak negatively, because I want everyone to be the second best brewery in Ontario, right? So I just, I do think that we have that as one of our advantages, is that our team isn't just stuck on one area or one or two. We can be in many, many different areas of beer and do it really well.
And that's what you need to be. I mean, that's what you guys showcase, and that's what we're kind of doing tonight. And like the folks can see right there from that breadth that's available every time you come in is pretty, I should say, rare. I don't know how often you could go to a brewery, at least having 10 consistent at least as of right now. Like that's pretty dope, and that's yeah. At least it's sort of there's a consistency and sort of a what's the like a certainty in that you know that oh yeah, my favorite's going to be there. Plus, it's going to be something fun that I can mess around with too. Not to mention the food. But this is great. Not to mention the food. Well, we've got to keep bringing it back to that because that shit was crazy. This is fantastic. This is such a great beer. I love it, and it's like you said, James, like speaks to that heritage. Yeah, Baltic Porters almost don't get the credit. I feel like they're so few and far between.
I love a porter. I love a stout.
It's great.
Yeah, it's
it
good.
tastes like home to me. So I don't know. It's great.
Here for it. I love it. So the last thing we're going to talk about to bring this bad boy home was the and I don't know a ton about it yet, and speak based on the last conversation, perhaps you guys know more, but the impending changes with regard to internal trade within Canada and what that means for breweries. Are you guys able to speak to what is essentially supposed to happen and what that means for breweries?
I think I can. So up to this point, if someone from BC came to our brewery and fell in love with this Baltic Porter, going, this is the whatever, I'm just saying, I know it's the best, but for them this is the best Baltic Porter.
There's no accounting for taste, right?
Right? And I want to get it. They can't get it in BC. And it was illegal for us to sell it to them directly and ship it to them.
Yes.
This is essentially the crux of the problem. And where the real crux of the problem is each of the provinces didn't want to do this because the provinces want to collect the taxes on where it was consumed. Okay? That's what I thought. Really important part for the provinces. That if you're going to consume alcohol in Ontario, we want to collect the taxes. So what you could do, and let's do the reverse. Let's say you went to BC, and I'm picking on BC unfairly because it could be any province or territory. Okay, let's just put that right.
It's the farthest one.
Okay, but it's the furthest one away, right? So you go to BC, you find this beer, you love it. You call them up and say, I want to buy a case. I'd love to sell you when I can. Now, you can set it up through the Ontario government, through the LCBO, for them to go out and buy it, and special string and brew it. Then the brewery doesn't get the full retail; they get the wholesale only. It comes out here. The LCBO collects the taxes. The LCBO is no different than any of the other provincials. So I'm not picking on them either. But that's the problem, right? So by getting rid of all of that, now that person or we can order beer from BC and have it shipped out here. But here's the problem, right? Let's just say that beer is going to make it up. It's $70 a case. Do you know how much to transport that one case of beer is from BC to here?
No.
Probably as much as the beer.
Right.
So, while I may go and get one case of my favorite beer from there that is my new favorite, I'm not going to be able to, I don't want to pay $140 a case of beer every time I want to get it. So this is going to be the bigger problem with it, okay, with this interprovincial thing. The interprovincial thing for me, from a beverage alcohol point of view, I have to be honest with you, really small, really tiny, okay? The interprovincial thing is more about other things that we don't even talk about, which is like doctors and nurses being able to transfer in between provinces a lot easier than they can. Okay. There's so much more to the interprovincial thing. On beverage alcohol specifically, I do not believe that this is going to be some big game changer because PEI still wants to get its taxes that it gets, and Ontario wants his, and Manitoba, and I pick them all of them, and they're all different. They all have different setups. Things are a little bit more expensive in the East Coast because of taxes. Things are more expensive in BC because of taxes. Alberta is kind of expensive too because of not so much because of taxes, but because of charges for warehousing and things like that. They're all a bit different. So how is it going to work in the end? Who gets the tax? Because it's a provincial thing, not a federal thing.
Right.
So
My understanding, though, let me put this to you and tell me if this is true. I heard a while ago that all of this stuff has been legal for years, but the problem is each province needs a reciprocal agreement with every other province with regard to the taxation. So, like you said, if a consumer in Ontario is ordering from BC Brewery cannot charge me BC tax. They have to charge me Ontario tax, and then they have to be able to distribute that, but they need that agreement. That is what I understand that major problem to be, and I don't know if these new stripping of regulations is going to make that a simpler process, and if also the brewery is able to find a reasonable cost to ship beer, because you are correct that it does cost, it's not cheap, then that I guess is on the business itself. If they feel like there's going to be a lot of interprovincial business, if they're able to get a cheap courier, ICS or Pure Later or something like that, might be able to do them a deal. But is that
I think we're all
somewhat
talking kind of the same thing because we're saying it in a little bit different way. But
okay?
you know, if we were to order a truckload of beer from BC and bring it in Ontario through the LCBO, the trucking would be as cheap as you could get. Maybe if it goes on the train car, it becomes the cheapest you could get it here, right? And that's factored in when they buy other things out of the province. But
I guess that's one side of it. The other side is B2C. So that's B2B, like a brewery in Vancouver selling to the LCBO, and then there's like, oh, just Craig wants to buy from.
But that's the point is that instead of getting $70 for the case, they're getting, let's make it up numbers, they're getting 35.
Okay.
Right? It's a wholesale thing. And the LCBO is making all the money, which is really the tax and the market in the Ontario government's hands. Right? Because again, that becomes the Ontario government going, if you consume it in this province, you need to pay the taxes in this province.
Okay.
Who
needs to pay the taxes?
Quick little story. I'm going to tell you this quick story. This is absolute, but it's a little off, but it has to do with taxes and what happens. I once worked for a company that we sold a product in Alberta, and it could have been any other province. And the truck got stolen in Alberta.
Oh.
Okay. So it got stolen. We put it through the insurance company. The insurance company paid us out. Yep, no problem. Here you go. Pay out for every case. Okay. Then the government came and said, well, what about our taxes? We're like, well, hang on a second. This was a stolen group. It didn't get sold, but it got consumed in our province. So the taxes have to be paid in our province. So the government sent us a bill for the taxes on the stolen product.
Oh
now, we submitted to our insurance company. The insurance company paid it right away. It wasn't an issue. But that's what we're talking about. It really, nothing more than anything comes down to money and taxes for the government.
Consumption tax is really the concern.
Yeah. So that's an absolutely true story. And I'll tell you more about that. But
that's crazy.
That's absolutely true. So this is what it's more about. So unless we make the taxes the same in every province, the exact same, it's still going to have, there'll be free flow, but it's going to be a very minor amount of your business.
Gotcha.
In fact, there'll be a handful of companies that will do well because they're small and those sales are really, really important to them. Okay, those one-off sales. These are small breweries that are doing hand selling of products that are $8 a can, $5.
That's more what I was talking about. Yeah,
they've got an opportunity there to grow their business. In our business, and in most businesses, I hate to say it, it's going to be a distraction.
Okay. Would you? Have you guys? Would you? Okay, say it all happens and it's all cool.
Yeah.
Are you looking at I don't know if call it exporting is really the right word, but are you looking to expanding into other markets outside of Ontario based on that, or it's not particularly interesting and you'd rather just stick with home?
We as a company are right in the middle of that, and I would love to sell in every province. I've sold beer in other provinces. Okay, not every province. We've sold cider in every province, in Canada, with the exception of Quebec, because Quebec has certain rules that you can only sell produce in Quebec. We've sold into a couple of territories. So, we have had that success. We want to continue doing that. We want to continue to build our brands and be nationwide. 100%. That is a big part of what we want to do. That it's more challenging than you think, because, there is different tax rules for outside provincial companies and those provincial ones. Yeah. So pricing is a little bit different. Margins are a lot thinner for us to go out to other provinces because of the transportation costs and the markup changes and things like that. But yeah, we want to be involved with more, but we'll have to wait and see, because unless all the provinces have the same taxation model, it doesn't really work.
Right.
And so, yes, I will be able to order that beer from New Brunswick that I went to New Brunswick and fell in love with this beer. But again, how many cases am I going to order when it's $70 for a lovely case of their beer and another, double it for transportation? It's just, I don't see a lot of people doing it, Craig. I see one-offs. Oh, I ordered the beer. I ordered it at Christmas time because it's a treat, because it ends up being too expensive because of the transportation cost. We live in the second largest country in the world. Correct. That's why our telecommunications is so expensive, because the traffic has to travel. Like we live in this big country. So I think that, I know there's other people, I believe, that think this is a greater opportunity for them. And, I hope it works out for them. But you're asking me, so I'm giving you my best answer. Yes, we'll potentially get more business from it, but as a percentage, I'm not sure it's more than 1% of our business.
Understood. That's great. That's great. That's exactly what I wanted to hear, as in your take on that. That's perfect. Thank you for being honest about that. This is cool. It's a weird, interesting time, I guess, in all of this stuff, and it's always good to get the takes from different folks in different positions, some breweries of different sizes, and what that means for their business. So yeah, I mean, it's all kind of
there'll be businesses where this will be great for them. This will be great, and maybe they want to be a small little business. There's nothing wrong with that. There's room for everyone, as I like to say, whether you're a small little farm place or a rural place or a big commercial brewery. There's room for everyone, and we'll find our space, and we'll find our space and what works for us, and that's where we're at this time in our life cycle as a brewery.
Makes complete sense. Love to hear it. This is awesome. And with that, boys, I feel like this is I feel like we kind of captured everything that we wanted to cover. This has been fantastic conversation with some really great beers and getting both your perspectives on everything that's going on. It's I really appreciate both your time, man. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you, guys.
Good, man. Well, look, anyone that wants to sit around and drink beer and talk about the beer business, that's a fun night, right? This has been great. I love this. This is fantastic. And I have to say, my first experience doing a podcast is fabulous.
Mine as well.
Really? Oh, you guys did awesome. You guys were very flowing, conversational, even with the little internet glitches on both sides. It's you guys, I wouldn't have guessed this is your first time. Good shit, boys.
We're rookies. Hey, James, we're rookies.
Not anymore.
And, loved it, Greg, and great questions, and thank you.
I don't need an excuse to drink beer, but this is a great one.
This is a good one. Let's do it again.
Oh, let's try and make this every. Usually, I'd love to have you guys back, and usually 12 to 18 months is a great time, and we'll see what's been happening and where things are going. And I would love that. That would be amazing. It'd be very, very cool. With that, what is there anything you want to sort of leave the audience with? Is there anything else that should be looking forward to from Blue Mountain? What's the vibes? I mean, obviously, we've really shown them the beer. We know the seasonal's coming up. This will come out next week, so it's still peak summer. But coming into the next seasons and what should people know?
We're developing an Italian Pilsner. We're doing
amazing
Saison, those will be our next two releases. Our Italian Pilsner and Saison are the next two sort of seasonals. Obviously, Thanksgiving's coming up. We're gonna do a pumpkin beer.
Oh, I love that.
Hell yes. Let's go.
We're gonna do a pumpkin beer for the Thanksgiving.
Yeah, do some fun things. Yeah,
crowd business. So we're gonna do some of that, and just keep working on our core line and improve. Try to improve every day, sort of thing.
Love to.
Yeah, I think that's a great summary. I mean, we're really excited about the year coming up. We're really excited with the changes we talked about, and tax and government, and being able to really. We've got strong ownership who continuously invest in the business. They love the business that we're in. And I think that, we're just continually trying to improve on ourselves all the time. As we like to say, even the best company can improve, right? So we have lots of exciting things around the corner, and we just want to make it more fun. So we talk about this all the time. What can we do to continue to be relevant and interesting, and we continue to bring great products across the board. And we have a saying in our company that we always want to over-deliver on your price point. So people come in here and they pay good money that they've earned and spend it here. We appreciate it. And we don't want to let them down. So we want to make great beers, great products, great food, great merchandise, absolutely great merchandise, and that's all around great people. And so we really have a fantastic team of people. So I would leave it that if you're looking for a fun time at a brewery, look no further. Come on out and hang out with us for a day, and I am sure it will convince you that you'll have a fabulous time and a fantastic experience when you come here.
I love that. And that is true. And with that, where can people find Blue Mountain Brewing online and in real life?
So the Blue Mountain Brewing Company has its new website, which is bluemountainbrewco.com. bluemountainbrewco.com. And you can find us there. We're on thornburycraft.com. We're on colio.com. We're in the
Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah. And we're in a few hundred LCBOs, and we're in a couple of hundred beer stores, and we have great presence in a lot of bars. And
under the tap specialist.
But you can come and meet James. I mean, come on,
he'll give you a hug.
Right. And his dog Riker is fantastic. So
I will say, Craig, I was pretty nervous going into this. You made it very comfortable for me. So thank you.
You're welcome, brother. I was trying to. It's always a chill. You guys were awesome. You guys were seriously fantastic. I just want to confirm as well. BlueMountainBrewingCo.com, and it's at Blue Mountain Brewing Co. on Instagram, which I imagine is the same as on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
So people can find, follow, tag, all that good stuff. Appreciate you guys immensely. Stick around for a sec. We're going to wrap this up, and then we'll finish off air. But James, Derek, boys, this was great. Thank you for just being transparent and just having a real fun convo about the business and everything you guys are doing. And this is fantastic. I really enjoyed this. You guys are champions, and let's definitely do it again next year. This would be sick.
Thanks for having us.
Such a pleasure. So, guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, hit that notification bell so you know when the new drops. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast, and check out the long form audio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars, not for me, but for James and Derek, for their time, for their beer, for the Blue Mountains and the best water in North America, goddammit. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.
Cheers.